Aita for breaking up with my boyfriend of 10 years after he proposed during my best friend's wedding. My 36F best friend Amy 37F just got married last week. I was her maid of honor and I worked to the bone to make sure her wedding was a success. For the most part it went well. My friend looked beautiful. The food was great. The flowers and decorations incredible. She was so happy, and it made me feel proud I was part of the group that worked to give her such an important day. Amy and I have been friends since we were in elementary school. We've reached all our milestones since together. Went to the same college, even live in the same neighborhood. She's the closest I have to a sister, and even our parents joke we're reborn twins. Needless to say, Amy is one of the most important people in my life. At the end of my master's, I met Danny 31M. He hired me as a tutor, and after a few sessions asked me out. I had never dated someone younger, but he was very sweet and I liked him. So I said yes. We've been together since. He had an older brother, Bobby 39M, who was introduced to Amy in a house party I hosted a few years later. The two were immediately taken with each other, and they started to date. Eventually Bobby asked Amy to marry him. During the wedding preparation, Danny casually mentioned how it would be a cute idea to propose during his brother's wedding. Bobby agreed, but both Amy and I immediately shut it down. I told Danny I found that kind of thing tacky. A person's wedding is a special day for them, and tainting it with stealing the attention was just wrong. After that, they stopped talking about it. So we kept going with the preparations. At the wedding reception, Bobby suddenly stopped the music to make an announcement. He said the day was very special, as he was marrying the love of his life, and kept singing praises to Amy. I thought it was a cute gesture, so I just moved to sit on my chair to listen to the speech. Then Bobby said a sentence that made me dread what was coming. And now the day is more special thanks to my brother's announcement. Suddenly Danny was in front of me. Kneeling with a box, Amy was in tears and ran out. I screamed at Danny, telling him he was a jerk, and went after Amy. At first she was angry at me, think I was involved in it. So were the other bridesmaids. Thankfully one of the girls had seen me call out Danny and told the others about it. I told Amy I would never do this to her. We hugged and we all got out of the venue to Amy's suite. We found out later through the men's mother that Bobby gave Danny permission without speaking to Amy about it. I called Danny that same night to tell him we were through, and I wanted him out of my apartment by the end of the week. I sent my mom to pick up my dog and Parrot, just to make sure he didn't do anything to them or take them with him. He ended up taking my TV and game consoles. I had them since before he moved in, but his mother was nice enough to bring the consoles back. For all I care, he can keep the stupid TV. Amy is now trying to get her marriage annulled since she feels she can't trust Bobby. The boy's mother has been nothing but a saint to us. She even paid back to Amy the money she spent on the wedding and told her to use the honeymoon with one of her friends. So Amy and I are now packing to go to Australia. She and Bobby had postponed it for a month so they could get a whole month of vacation. I am a freelancer that works from home, so I'll just take my laptop. Since this whole fiasco, Danny has been blowing up my phone. Some of his friends have joined in this too, claiming I'm an asshole for throwing out a 10 years relationship over a mistake, that he only wanted to make a cute gesture to prove how much he loves me. Except the cute gesture was taking over my best friend's wedding after I had said how much I disliked that kind of stuff. Still, a part of me feels I'm overreacting. So Reddit, am I the asshole in this? To the people PMing me to call me names or insult me, have the balls to post in public or just leave me alone. I have no interest in cowards that hurl insults in private. Also, for the record, even if it had been the perfect proposal, for my own reason I would have refused to marry. We were not in marriage talks. Far from it. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, men don't see that as such a big deal, and when their mum okayed it, they probably thought it would be fine in the moment. However, I get that you think it's a big deal. My main problem here is the lack of communication. No couple or marriage is perfect. You went from he did a dumb thing to we're done. Same with your friend. No discussing it, no therapy. Real relationships need work. Reply. Their mom never okayed it. Nobody did. They just planned it out behind everyone's back. It wasn't about being perfect or working in it. It's the fact we've told them something directly and they didn't care for our opinions. If they don't care what we think in something as important as a wedding and engagement, what would happen to other decisions? They aren't lovesick teens. They are grown men that should know better and respect when they are told no. Commenter 2, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get downvoted here. But if this is real, both Amy and OP sound like insufferable bitches. I agree it is tacky, and they were told no before. But there was no malicious intent here, and the brother probably thought it was a nice bonding moment for them to do it that way. They'll be better without these overdramatic women in their lives. Reply, I'm better too. Now I don't have to pay for his food, rent, and all the hobbies he can't afford. Commenter 3, both were stupid with what they did. I know you and your friend are mad, but somehow, I feel you could have resolved it by talking calmly. I mean, people make mistakes, but people learn as well, and some even become much better versions of themselves after things like this. I suggest you and your friend cool off, then talk to your SOs again. At least now they know you don't F off with your boundaries. Reply, I don't know about Amy, but I have no intentions of going back. Other things have happened that had me on the corner. The fact that he ignored me saying no directly, and then stealing my stuff, and having his friends harass me, have made me unlikely to ever speak to him again as a partner. Commenter 4, make sure you change your locks ASAP. That way he doesn't move back in while you are on vacation, or steal more of your stuff. Maybe put up cameras in your home just in case. Good luck to both of you girls. Reply, I have cameras and already called the landlord. I'll also have a house sitter for the pets so it won't be empty. Commenter 5, this seems like a massive overreaction. I wouldn't say you're in the wrong, but this isn't the sort of thing most people would break up a relationship over. In either yours or Amy's case, I'm not sure why I'd annul a marriage just because my husband's brother proposed to my friend at the wedding. Reply, it wasn't for that explicitly. The annulment is because he went behind her back to do something against her wishes, on something as important as a wedding. Imagine if this was something else like an economic decision, or something related to health. Or kids, commenter 6.NTA, block them all and move on. Also, change the locks and passwords Danny had access to. Same with anything financial. Sorry this has happened. It's never fun when your SO ignores your wishes. Trust me, I know. Reply, we never merged finances, thankfully. I paid for everything. So I kept a tight leash on my personal bank account. I do have some passwords to change, but nothing that will kill me if he has for a few more days. Locks are being changed this weekend. Commenter 7, how did you manage to change the airline tickets and other reservations for an international trip from Bobby's name to yours? That warrants purchasing another ticket entirely. Reply, I am purchasing a ticket for myself. The one from Bobby, he can do whatever he wants with it. The hotel reservations were on Amy's name since she paid for the honeymoon herself. OP replied to deleted comment, it's not forbidden, but it's a giant social no. Aside from that, for me it was the fact that after I've maintained Danny for the last few years in the literal sense, he disregards my opinion just like that. He knows I hate PDA. I especially hate public attention like proposals. I'm not even big on the idea of a wedding for myself. This was my best friend's wedding, and the only reason I was involved was that, as for Amy, she has her reasons, but I know the big one is being dismissed when she explicitly said she wasn't okay with a proposal during her wedding day. Commenter 8 ETA here, the boys went against the women's wishes, despite being told otherwise. Op's boyfriend seems like a jackass, stealing a TV and a console. I'm sure there are bigger issues here. The women here are also wrong, annulling a marriage over this. Absolutely drama queen behavior, breaking up and kicking someone out of a shared living space. Incredibly dramatic. All in all 4 participants seem like they're better off without the others. This whole story is a shit show. Reply, it was my space, not his. I paid for everything. So, I reserve the right to kick anyone I want from my space. If he paid rent, it would be different. Commenter 9. Wait, he didn't pay rent, knew you didn't want marriage right now and did this anyway, and the fiancé paid basically nothing for the wedding and honeymoon? What exactly did you two see in these guys? They both sound like losers. Reply, they were charming, I can give them that. I was better positioned economically. My friend is much better than her husband. Ex-husband still in the air there. It just made sense we took the monetary responsibilities until things balanced out. Except in my case, they never did. Hers was slowly getting better. Final update. Aita for breaking up with my boyfriend of 10 years after he proposed during my best friend's wedding. I'm going to do a quick update since after this, I plan to just go back to my normal Reddit account. To begin with, Amy and I are almost at the date to leave. Bobby and her have been talking and agreed to couple therapy after we return from Australia. I've also talked with him and he apologized to me. He didn't know how fractured my relationship with his brother was, but figured it out by the way Danny acted after we broke up. For the people telling me I should have given him a chance or that he wanted to do a gesture out of love, you are insane. It wasn't love, but him trying not to lose his meal ticket. Bobby told me after our breakup. Danny began to bad talk me to his family, claiming I stole all his money, his apartment, his pets, etc. He even started to claim he was going to sue me. All of our stuff in the apartment was paid by me. Our pets were my pets. The dog was my birthday gift, and I've had my parrot since I was in middle school. At first, Bobby was on his brother's side until he noticed Danny wasn't working ever. When he asked Danny about his job, Danny fessed up and admitted that all the money he had was what I would give him. Apparently, he still refuses to work, instead couch surfing from friend to friend. Apparently, Danny admitted to Bobby he wanted to marry me mostly because I was okay with him not working, and he didn't want a wife nagging him about work. He could play all day while I paid all the bills and did the house chores. Bobby was very apologetic, but I told him it was fine. It wasn't. I just don't want to throw more wood to the fire when Amy and him are trying to somewhat get things worked out. I still have another 4 months on my lease, so I'll be moving in December. I have to admit, these last weeks being single have been the best I've had in forever. I'm happier, healthier, and I've been able to cut my hours at work without risking being paycheck to paycheck. Last, to the people saying because I'm in my 30s this might have been my last chance. GTFO. I'm not interested in a traditional family being a wifey and popping out babies left and right. I am more than happy being in a child-free partnership without some wedding. It's not me being feminist or woke or whatever. It's just I find weddings stupid and I dislike children. I respect women that can live a traditional life, but that's not for me, and no, I never recovered my TV. A small price to pay to get my life back. BTW, I appreciate the supporting PMs, but as I said when I started this post, this is a throwaway. I plan to delete it later in the week. Thank you for the good advice of some Reddits, and sorry if I didn't answer all comments or PMS. Relevant comments, Oop replied to a very big thread. Okay. OP here to give you some semblance of reality. Marriage was never in consideration. I didn't want to be proposed in a wedding and was clear that was not going to be a thing I agreed on. I have every agency to say, no, there's no discussion. I won't bend on that. Public proposals, especially on someone else's wedding, are a straight no. Period. Stories number 2. I broke up with my GF on Christmas because of her family. Okay. I'm of indigenous descent. I do perform at powwows and sing too. My girlfriend is white. So is her family, except for her BIL. He's African American. This is my first Christmas with them and my girlfriend been together a year and a half. There's that bit of backstory. So, I went to girlfriend's family gathering for Christmas yesterday. And while there it comes up that I dance and sing at powwows. Conversation starts off innocent enough. But I get that feeling that people of color get sometimes when these sorts of talks come up. And I know something offensive is about to go down. There are about 15 grown people there. And 4 children. So I'm fielding question statements like, do the words mean anything or is it just gibberish? I can hop too. How much Indian are you? Do you get money from the casino? Anyways, my GF's uncle tells me to do an Indian chant and wants me to dance too. I said no. Then GF's dad chimes in with a, come on, do one, and then like 6 others start asking. I say it's just weird and I don't want to. GF's BIL is staring at the floor, glancing over at me with a look that says, I'm so sorry. And after about 5 minutes of this shit, her uncle tells his kids to dance and sing like an Indian. So then there's 2 white children making Indian noises and jumping around the room. GF is laughing like UTF and everyone is cheering for them. Me and the BIL are staring in complete fucking disbelief. Then they start in on me again. They can do it. Show them how it's actually done. I've had enough. I stand up and tell them I'm not their fucking show monkey. And they need to be more respectful of other cultures. GF just sits there. She's been to at least 10 of my performances and claims to love my culture. And she not once defended me or it here. I look over at her and ask her to help me out here and she sheepishly says, they're just kidding around. And I say, okay, well, I'm not kidding around when I say we're done. Her dad and uncle start saying something. And her sister says that that's not fair. And I start walking to the bedroom to get my shit to leave. While doing so, I forget that she drove her car. And I'm without transport to get 4 hours to my apartment. So, I suck it up. Go back out there while XGF's grandma is telling everyone off. She was also not happy about what transpired. She's a goddamn saint of a woman. I say to ex-girlfriend, you need to take me home now. Please. She's crying naturally. And her dad says, find your own way, you fucking bastard. And Bill stands up and says, I'll do it. His wife tells him not to. And he says something like this was all too much. And he can't just leave me stranded. So I get into his truck and I'm shaking. I'm still so fucking pissed off, and he gets in, starts it up, and we're off. About 15 minutes down the road, he looks at me and says, bro, what the fuck? And we start laughing. He tells me about what happened his first time meeting that family and all the stories thereafter. And honestly, I think I dodged a bullet, so today, I've been getting messages from my friends and mutual friends of my ex about how I'm an asshole for breaking up with her in front of her family, cussing them all out and demanding they fly me back home. Apparently, she's been feeding them all an extremely exaggerated event. One asked me if keyed her dad's car before I left, like WTF anyways. I've been feeling kind of bad for dumping her in front of her family, like, my adrenaline is still active, and my nerves are all on end. Is what I did too much? How do I get my friends to believe that what I did was justified? I know she probably didn't mean what she did, but still. She's also been texting me and trying to smooth things over, but I honestly don't see it. Especially after lying to our friends, but also part of me really does miss her. We've been holed up at my place for 11 months. Getting to know almost everything about each other, I'm confused. I know me and most of her family are done even if we work this shit out. It's a weird thing to love someone, and then suddenly you have to tell yourself you don't anymore. TLDR, GF's family was being very disrespectful to my indigenous heritage and culture. Told their children to dance like Indians, and I freaked out and broke up with her in front of them all. Top commenter, fuck that noise. Her family is racist and she didn't stand up for you. You dodged a bullet? You don't owe anyone a performance, and I'd break up with someone treating me like a dancing monkey too. The fact she doubled down and started lying about what happened shows you how much love and respect she has for you. Move on with a clear conscience and don't look back. You deserve someone who will stand up for you. Sending you love update. So first off, thank you for the awards and stuff. The kind words, and mostly the advice. Second, I turned off my phone after my original post and immediately got hammered. Passed out, woke up at 2 p.m. the next day, ordered some MF waffles, and built my dog a bed that she won't sleep in whatever. I guess, then got into my car, went to Best Buy to buy a PS5. They didn't have any naturally. Bought a new TV instead, got a Switch and some games, and had been living the best fucking life I could possibly be living. No phone, no internet except for the gaming, no social media, and honestly, no heartache. Finally turned my phone back on today to an absolute onslaught of texts. Missed calls, voicemails, FB messages, Twitter messages, and you name it. There was a message on my PS from my brother even. I did respond to him to let him know I was fine, and to tell our family not to worry. I was just dealing in my own way. The juicy bits are as follows. X is terribly sorry, and she doesn't condone what they did, but it's her family, and she didn't mean to laugh or whatever. She keeps trying to bait me to respond with things like, what about our history? We talked about having a family. Basically, trying everything. I will admit I did respond once, and I said politely, please leave me alone. What we had was great. I enjoyed every bit of it as much as you claim you had, but that was absolutely horrific to watch, and watching you laugh at it was heartbreaking and abhorrent. We have no chance after what I experienced. Hopefully that didn't paste in a weird format, but she has since messaged me a few times more than I think she finally realized it's over. Her dad or uncle, I'm honestly not sure, who texted me to apologize for what happened. Never responded, probably won't. Grandma added me on FB. That goddamn sweetheart, she's like 80, and posted the night this all happened that she has never been so disappointed on a holiday. Then has been spamming the newsfeed with indigenous history stuff, and made a big long post on the anniversary of Wounded Knee that was absolutely beautiful. I am talking with her about her granddaughter. She thinks I should give her another shot. I told her it's honestly not something I want to deal with right now. She gets it though. Our friends group has basically been split down the middle. Half still think I should have waited until Christmas was over to break up. The other half just don't really give a shit anymore, I guess. There are a few friends I did explain what happened, and that went about as smooth as shitting bricks sideways. They refused to believe she would just sit there and do nothing, despite screenshots of her literally saying she was sorry for laughing and not doing anything. So, they're gone. Done with them. Some of my closer pals told me they never trusted her, and I asked why, and they said it's because she called fry bread lefts one time. Other than that, our friends are all filled in from what happened on both sides. Whatever they decide, it is what it is. The real hero of the situation, the BL. I showed him the post and he had a few things to say. 1. He said fuck the guy who called him the N-word or something. Yeah, fuck that guy too. He says that him and his wife are actually in the middle of a divorce, but we're trying to reconcile before going through with it, because they have a child together. 3. He says thanks for all the MVP acknowledgement, and he says he couldn't just leave a brother hanging like that. I learned that he's a quarter Choctaw. And last, he says he hates racism as much as the next decent person. But love is a crazy, beautiful, fickle, wonderful bitch. What are you gonna do? I think that about covers most of everything. I don't expect there will be anything to update from here. Again, thanks for the kindness. You are all amazing, except that one guy, stories number 3. My son's boss came to my home and asked me to violate my son's boundary, and I refused. In July, my youngest son's, he is 31, I am 55 female, and I had a major disagreement. His ex-girlfriend's mom had stopped at my house the night before, and I let her in. And we talked for a few hours. He told me I had no right to let her in my home, and that he didn't want to speak to me ever again. He has since blocked my phone and cut me off from his 2 kids. While I do miss him and my grands, he expressed a boundary. He was clear, do not contact him. While I think his reasoning is bullshit, he did set a boundary. I believe as his mom I need to respect that boundary, even while I do not agree with it. Last night, Oct 28, 2025, his boss stopped by my house. He told me that my son is complaining every day that I have not reached out. I have known his boss most of my life. I babysat him and his sister when they were kids. I explained the situation, and the fact that I do not currently have his phone number, as I hear he changed his number. His boss told me I have to go to his house and knock on the door. I told his boss no, my son set a boundary, he is aware of my phone number and where I live. So am I the asshole for refusing to violate my son's boundary? Update, I have 2 sons, both are addicts. The oldest is in recovery, and has been clean and sober for 8 years. This one is not sober, he is still in active addiction. Addicts are unpredictable and mostly not rational. I have done the respect the boundary routine with my oldest before he got sober. Being the loved one of an addict is painful for all. Commenter 1, so I would say, given the circumstances, this is less of a my son's boss and more like a family friend situation. I'm assuming this boss is in some way your son's friend given the history. So unlike others here, I don't think this a massive violation, but more of a minor one. He's trying to help out a family friend, not nosing into an employee's private business. That being said, you are NTA by refusing to break the boundary that was set. If your son wants to fix things, he needs to make the first step. At the very least, he now will know this, since you had the conversation with his boss, who will undoubtedly share the information with your son. Commenter 2. Your son is an adult. He wanted this, but now wants you to grovel so he can bitch you out, and then either be okay again or get his closure. It is your life. You can decide what you want. You can act and reach out or not, just like this is his life. He can reach out if he wants or not. Reply. My husband and other son agree with you. He is whining to the boss, so the boss would blame me, maybe not sure why complain to him, but I'm not groveling and I'm not breaking his set boundary. Commenter 3. This is beyond strange. A 31-year-old man-child sets a boundary of someone going into your house they don't like. Weird. But okay. Then for him to whine, and his boss comes to your house to tell you that you need to go over to his house. He cannot contact OP. How do these people get dressed in the morning? They are as cogent as a baby in a straitjacket. Commenter 4. NTA. Sounds like his boundary was emotional blackmail manipulation. I see in the comment he's an addict. If you haven't tried it, I'd recommend Al-Anon and keep the course with his boundary. It is on him to break it if that's what he wants. I feel bad for the grands, but that's on him. Reply. Al-Anon has been a godsend to me and my family. Anybody dealing with addicts should think about them. They are such a great resource. Stories number 4. My husband wants a divorce since BL saw me naked. I don't know who to speak to because this is very embarrassing. My husband and I own a lake cottage, and we spend most weekends there. Sometimes his sister and her husband join us, but it is always pre-planned. They have 2 children. Last Friday, my husband told them to join us and sent me a text that they were coming with their children. I didn't see the text, and Bill walked in on me while I was naked. I ran to the room and heard him say, "Damn," and laugh out loud, and then his wife and children walked in. Then I heard them fighting and she drove away with the children. I don't know what he told his wife, but she was livid about it. He was laughing the whole time he told me. Eventually, I gave him my car after my husband answered me and said he was on his way. So I felt that I didn't need my car anymore. My husband didn't say much other than he always told me not to go around naked. He has mentioned it sometimes when we are at home and like I go up to the bathroom, or drink water in the middle of the night and I am too sleepy to put on my robe, or when I'm showering and I have forgotten something, and I just run out to fetch it, which is what happened this time. But he didn't speak to me either, and just giving me the silent treatment. Today I told him to speak to me, And he is very angry because Bil saw me, but also because he'd made some comments about it to Sil. And my husband said that he wasn't sure he wanted to continue this marriage. I don't need any advice, I'm just so heartbroken and wanted to vent somewhere because I am too embarrassed to tell my friends. Edit, just got this from Bil. I texted my husband, Sil and Bill in a group chat to ask what happened. Sil blocked me. Bill told me this. Sil was angry that he shut the door behind him and left her and the children out, and she started yelling at him. She's been yelling the whole drive up. Then he told her why he shut the door behind him, and he was laughing about it, and said that it was a great way to start his weekend, and that he was looking forward to this stay. What a sight for sore eyes. He said he was messing with her because she got angry at him for nothing and always was yelling at him. Well, it backfired on me because she left the idiot in my home for about an hour until he gave up that she would come back, and he borrowed my car. CL was angry that he stayed in the cottage after she left for an hour and told my husband. My husband is a possessive moron that I ignored. His red flags because our marriage has been happy and I love him, and his jealousy and possessiveness haven't had a chance to flare up. Because I have been very devoted wife, I guess we all got the consequences of our actions. I ignored my husband's red flags and they came back to bite me. Bill hurt Sil because she's always angry at something, and now she's making his life a living hell. And my loser husband will lose the best thing that ever happened to him according to him. Comments. Commenter 1. What the absolute fuck is this? Please tell me this is made up. Who in their right mind would divorce someone over something so stupid? Commenter 2. Holy shit, everyone in your orbit are behaving like absolute fucking children over this. He accidentally walked in and saw you naked. He didn't shoot your grandma. I'm sorry your husband is an insecure baby. Commenter 3. If your husband wants a divorce because you got walked in on, then he shouldn't be a man you should be with anyways. Because when will it be the cherry on top for him? How many times have you had issues about things that weren't your fault? He could have came and told you in person, rather than text you they were coming. Commenter 4. Why isn't anyone considering your feelings? How wildly embarrassing and how inappropriate of his reaction and response. That's very awkward, and I'm sorry that everyone is mad at you. Stories number 5. My professor, mid-30s M, groped me 20F and offered a better grade for sex. I'm sorry, I'm very distressed. This just happened and I don't know what to do. I'm also scared that he uses Reddit and might see this. Disclaimer, I'm on mobile and this is a throwaway. I'm an undergrad in my second year of classes, and this semester is the first time I've had this professor. He seemed like a really nice guy, and I approached him after the first or second class to talk to him. He was really nice, and answered a lot of my questions, and we even chatted casually for a bit. At the end of our chat, he wrote down his phone number and handed it to me and said to message him whenever. I was ecstatic because I really struggle in my major, and I felt like he was investing in me. Over time, he would message me about random things, and even from time to time he would message me if I hadn't turned in a homework assignment, or if I hadn't come to class a particular day. I asked around and he hasn't done this for any other students. He has given his phone number to some other students, but they are all in the internship at his other job that he is the supervisor of. He would sometimes flirt with me, and at first I thought the special attention was nice and would flirt back. He would sometimes have me stay after class, or ask me to come back if I had left frequently. It's always been vague or subtle, never truly direct until recently. My finals are next week, and I admit I'm not doing the greatest in his class. I will pass, but with a C if I do well on this final. I had asked him if there was any extra credit was available. He then asked me what I was willing to do. I said I would do pretty much anything to get my grade up, and he then began to make some subtle references continuously as the conversation went on. He never stated over text explicitly what he wanted. Today, class ended early, and I headed back to my dorm. He then messaged me and asked if I still wanted to make that plea for extra credit. I said that I still wanted it, and was waiting for him to tell me what opportunities he had for me. He said something generic, so I asked if he wanted me to come back like I've done previously. He said yes. When I got to the classroom, he asked if I was truly willing to do anything, and if I was willing to go down that route. I was nervous, but I still felt nice having that special attention, and I stupidly said yes. He essentially offered that I would have a good grade in the class if I sent him explicit pictures of myself, and if I would go back somewhere with him sometime. I agreed to the photos, and after I had sent a few, he asked to see them himself. I thought he just wanted me to flash him. He told me to go to the back of the classroom, so no one could see me from the window in the door. He then locked it and stood between me and the door and my backpack. This is when I started to regret being there, and was scared of what he might do. He asked me to take off my shirt. I did, and he touched my boobs. Then he asked to see my butt and took pull down my pants. He touched, and then my vagina, which he also touched. I said I wasn't comfortable doing anything else, and he let me go. He asked if I was free tonight, and I said I was busy with a friend, and he left. The gravity and the weight didn't really hit me until after, and now I feel really gross. I had joked with my friends that this might happen, but I never truly thought it actually would. I feel so uncomfortable. I'm also scared to file anything, because he's grading a large project soon, and he'll be grading my final. This class is in my major, and I really don't want him to take any anger out on me. I'm also scared, because he has never explicitly stated that he was willing to trade sex for my grade over text. He only did it in person. Do I really have any evidence at all? How do I prove that he touched me? This is such a small department too, that I'm scared everyone will know it was me. Please, any advice for what I should do? Edit. I forgot to mention that I realized the number he gave me is a Google Voice number and not his actual cell number. He's only been contacting me through that. Does this mean he's been planning this from the start? TLDR, my professor groped me and offered to trade sex for bonus points. What should I do? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 steps to follow what I would do. Gather anything that can be used as proof. Don't spread the word about it in your college since the teacher might hear about it and go defensive mode. Plan something. Ask for appointments to the counselor and dean about a very sensitive topic. You don't have to say on email what it's about if you don't want to, but giving an idea of what it's about might be good since they will take you in ASAP as an urgent matter. With a copy of all the proof, show it to the dean and counselor and explain what happened verbally too. Comply with the college. If you aren't happy with the result, go to the PD. Every second matters. Most importantly, do not give in. A valid point you can make is that the teacher purposefully lowered your grades in order to make you the offer. All schools and colleges have extremely effective and harsh punishments about this kind of stuff. You will be fine. Reply, thank you so much. Do you think it would be alright to wait until morning? I feel really gross and it's already been so hectic. And I'm still scared, and I know how much this will ruin his life. I know I shouldn't feel bad, but I feel really bad about that too. Commenter 2, do not go to a professor or dean. Go directly to the Title IX coordinator at your school and file a report. Many staff who are mandatory reporters fail to understand their duty. At worst, they will tip off the respondent before you make it to Title IX. File the report, and if you need proof otherwise, you can supplement the report later. It is important to get yourself protected from retaliation and further harassment. The Title IX office will be able to protect you in that regard. Update. Thank you to everyone who has been incredibly kind and has sent messages to see how I'm doing. I do have a support system in place, and they've been incredibly helpful. I've documented the event and emailed it to myself. I'm at the very least going to file a complaint in the Title IX office. I told someone else in my class, and we compared some of our tests, and noticed I lost a lot of points where he lost few or none at all. Also, we noted that in my final project, I was paired with a student who was supposed to fail the class and given a week later start than everyone else. I've written these down and documented this as well. The professor has continued to message me, and I've been replying to keep his suspicions that I might report off of me. I also just wanted to let some of the meaner comments know. I am not saying I was raped in any capacity. I did fail to say no when he began touching me, but I never said yes, and I was in a situation where it was incredibly hard for me to say no until it became far too much. I agreed to photos and for him to see, not to anything else. I'll update once I go through the process of reporting. Thank you to everyone who has given their input and given me their strength. Update. Hi everyone. It's been about almost 2 years since I posted, but I wanted to give an update for anyone who cares or had been in a similar situation. I ended up going to Title IX office at my university, and they were incredibly helpful. They helped me every step of the way, and still continue to assist me when I have difficulties in my classes or in life. They helped me contact the police and begin an investigation. The professor was immediately fired from his position at the university and from his other job. He was the head of an internship at a company that was popular with students. He was found to be purposefully sabotaging my grade and coercing me into sex. Several other girls also came forward and confirmed similar had happened to them. My department head was less than helpful, and even asked me not to speak about it to anyone to avoid damaging the reputation of the school. I'm in a male-dominated department, and honestly, I didn't expect much. I haven't spoken to any reporters or lawyers about the situation, and I'm unsure if I ever will. I don't have any updates on the investigation. I haven't been to trial, and it's been a debate in my own mind if I would even want to. I've had a restraining order filed and I try to move on and heal. I still have difficulty trusting male professors, and get a lot of anxiety at the thought of being alone with them. Academic stress really triggers the trauma of the situation I was in, so school can be doubly difficult for me. It'll take me an extra year to graduate at this point, but I try not to beat myself up over it. The university has given me free therapy through their health center, and I've been in it for almost a year and a half. The healing process takes time, but I'm happy I'm growing as a person. It's a terrible situation I was a victim in, but it's my responsibility to heal from it. He robbed me of a lot of my security, but he won't take any more from me. I will take it back one day. If you are ever in a situation where a professor is making you uncomfortable, tell someone. I began by speaking with my friends, and they were the ones who recommended Title IX. You are not alone. It's not your fault. You are not dirty or gross. You are a student. They are the ones in power. They should know better. My DMs are open for anyone who ever has questions or needs help. I wish the best for you. You are strong. You are capable. You will get through this. TLDR. My professor groped me and tried pressuring me into sex for a better grade. An investigation ensued and he was fired. I'm healthier and better and healing. Final comments. Commenter 1. Thank you for the update and for coming forward. I'm glad that there were resources available, and that some people were helpful even if others were not. I'm glad the asshole is gone, and I hope he's never in a position of power that he can abuse again. Good luck with your continued journey. Reply. Thank you so much. It feels a little like justice, but I try to get closure on my own rather than spare any thoughts to him. Commenter 2. I'm glad for this update and that he lost his job, but please reconsider not going to the police. This dude deserves to be punished for being such a piece of human garbage. Reply. I did. Within the first few days, the Title IX lawyer actually came with me to file the report. They haven't contacted me with any updates since a year ago, though, so I've no clue where the investigation is now. Commenter 3. If this school is in the USA, your county likely has a victim advocacy agency that can act as a liaison between you and the police to get those updates. It's your right as a victim to be informed throughout that process. RAIN may also be able to help connect you to these services by routing your call to your local sexual assault agency 800-656-HOPE. Hope this info is help in case you want to hear more about what happened with the criminal case. Reply. I might just do that. Thank you for the helpful info. Commenter 4. I work in Title IX, and I'm so glad to hear that the Title IX office at your institution was helpful. I know sometimes Title IX gets a bad rap, but I, and everyone else I know who works in Title IX, really cares about helping students. I'm glad they were a good support system for you. Reply. I was surprised by how helpful they were. They didn't shame me or make me feel uncomfortable. They were 100% supportive of any action I wanted to take. Even when they reviewed the evidence texts, tests, assignments, other students' reports, they always made sure to emphasize that my comfort and privacy was above all. The efforts they made and still make for my sake have made a world of difference. Stories number 6. Today I get to find out if I'm facing prison time. Thanks to alcohol, at the beginning of this year, I found out my boyfriend at the time was cheating on me. And like I always did, I decided to cope with alcohol and foolishly chose to drive. I hit another car head-on, and 2 of the 3 people in the vehicle broke bones. So I have 2 counts of DUI with severe bodily harm and felony property damage. I honestly don't even remember the accident. That's how drunk I was. Today I meet with my public defender and find out if it's house arrest and probation, or prison time. I honestly think I deserve the prison time, but I'm still scared shitless. I haven't had a drop of alcohol since that day, so in a way it helped me, but I still hurt people, and the guilt I feel has weighed on me since it happened. I drank for 10 years, and my parents would always make comments that I was going to end up dead or in prison if I kept it up, and always thought they were just being dramatic. But they were right. If you want some motivation to stop, take me as an example. I didn't think it would happen until it did. Quit while you're ahead. Comments. Commenter 1. You stayed 295 days sober after that. With all the stress of the procedure on your shoulders? That's incredible. No matter what happens, the worst is done, and now facing the music won't seem too bad. You will be an inspiration to people aspiring to be sober. Good luck with everything, friend. Commenter 2. A drunk driver killed my best friend. I have zero sympathy for people who drink and drive. That being said, you deserve a life free from alcohol and the chance to be your best self. No matter how things turn out, I'll be rooting for you. Update. I got almost 8 years to face. I fucked up my life. I'm gonna be almost 40 years when I get out. Don't make the mistakes I did. Get sober. It's worth it. Your life is worth it comments. Commenter 1. I got a 7-year sentence, did my time, I am sober, own a business, have a beautiful family. Best thing ever happened to me. We do recover. Commenter 2. You can defiantly get out on good behavior. Times are reduced quite regularity, you may only see a few years. All the best to you, man. Commenter 3. My GF is a defense attorney and she does a lot of DUI cases. For those who get jail time, their sentence is usually half jail, half probation. So OP is going to do 4 years in the clink but will likely get out soon after. Especially if their attorney pushes for it. OOP clarifies on why she got 8 years. One person broke their femur and another broke their collarbone. I've heard breaking your femur is the worst bone to break. That pain is worse than childbirth. I feel awful for what I did those people. I've had a lot of people hit me with, God has a plan. And I just don't agree with that because why would God put innocent people in harm's way? I fucked up, plain and simple. I don't post this for sympathy though. Just thought a scary warning like this will be sobering to people. I've seen quite a few people admit to driving while intoxicated on here. And a lot of them are just lucky they haven't been caught yet. It shouldn't have had to come to this for me to quit drinking. I should have done it long ago. Hopefully what happened to me will be the push that helps someone stop. Stories number 7. Abta, if I forward my boss's PTO text to HR after he tried to dock my pay for not answering while on vacation? I booked 5 days PTO months ago. June 10 to 14, flights paid in March. $412 round trip. Non-refundable. I put it on the shared calendar. Sent the formal request in our HR tool. Got the green check. I also handed over a 1-page handoff with passwords in the vault. Who owns what tickets, all that. I told my boss twice that I would be off-grid after 2 p.m. on the 9th because I was flying to see my dad. He said, cool, enjoy day 1 of PTO, 7:32 a.m. He texts, can you jump on a quick call? Then pings in Teams. Then emails my personal, subject line urgent. It was about a spreadsheet that literally has a tab named Read Me with step-by-step. I ignored it because PTO, at 10:11 a.m. he wrote, if you do not respond, I will mark today as unapproved absence. I replied once at 10:20 with a short sentence. I am on approved PTO, see calendar and handoff. Jane is the point of contact. He reacted with a thumbs up, then kept texting. Day 2. He called me 3 times during my dad's appointment, and when I silenced the phone he started slacking my junior, dragging her in. When I came back Monday, the timesheet showed 1 day unpaid. He said I failed to be reachable, and that PTO is not permission to vanish. I printed the approval. The handoff and the messages where he writes, and I quote, you can answer basic questions by phone. HR lady looked at it, told us to resolve it together first. Boss told me to just take the day from next month to keep peace. I said I want it corrected now, and if not I will escalate. If I forward all his messages and my paper trail to HR and CC his manager. Wibta, part of me feels petty. The other part is tired of being punished for boundaries. For what it is worth, when he took PTO in April, nobody bothered him. We literally moved a client meeting. Should I push this? Or is it making drama at work for no reason? Comments. Commenter 1, what the actual fuck? Paid time off means you are off? HR should not tell you to resolve it together. They need to handle it. The time was approved prior to the trip, and you did everything to set the team up for success. Your boss sounds utterly incompetent. Commenter 2, NTA, if it were me, is also continue to escalate. Paid time off is time of, and you are under no obligation to answer work questions at that time. And your boss's incompetence does not constitute an emergency leave of your PTO on your part. Plus, he's giving you a black mark on your record too, use against you in your year-end review of you foolishly keep the peace. Nope. Keep fighting the good fight here, and if HR does not act, is suggest consulting a lawyer in your state labor board. Commenter 3. I would look for a new job while asking HR if they really want things to go down this way. If they continue that you need to work it out with your boss, thank them for the confirmation they will not remediate the situation, and then sue them once you leave. Commenter 4. If this happened in June, then why are you waiting 5 months to possibly report it? Also, June 9th was a Monday, so you took PTO from Tuesday to Saturday? If you weren't a bot, you'd know people take PTO from Monday to Friday, not Tuesday to Saturday. So you need to go back and get reprogrammed. Stories number 8. AITA for telling my husband to not eat the food I made for my lunches. My husband 34M and I 33F had a little exchange yesterday morning. He works remotely full-time while I work in person all 5 days of the week. I also do most of the cooking and cleaning. Since I'm not home during the day, I make my lunch and make sure he either has leftovers, or make something fresh for him the night before. On Monday, there was a crisis at work, and I realized I was going to have to work longer hours this week, and won't have a lot of time to cook. I stayed up until 2 a.m. on Monday night, cooking a variety of food items to cover my lunches for the week, and at least 2 to 3 days worth of meals for all of us. He went to bed at 10 p.m. For my lunches, I made stuffed squash since I can just boil a little bit of rice to go with it every night while packing my lunch. The next morning, as I was heading out for work, I started showing my husband what's in the fridge so he doesn't tell me later. He didn't see it. He saw the stuffed squash and started taking one out of the container before I could tell him I made it for my lunches. Here's where I might be TA. As he was taking one out, I said a little too loudly, "No, that's for my lunches." He looked a bit like how our daughter looks when I scold her for something. The intention was to let him know I made it with a specific purpose, so he's not just eating all the portions I made for my lunches and leaving me scrambling again. I also told him that he's more than welcome to try one if he wants it. I just didn't want him to think he can have all of it. He wasn't saying anything more on it, and I was running late, so I left for work. When I got home, he seemed unnaturally quiet and distant with me. I asked him why he's acting weird, but he said he isn't and nothing's wrong, so I dropped it. At the end of the night, he told me he didn't like how I spoke to him that morning about the food, and he felt like I was trying to control how much he's eating. My husband is the sort of person who will eat half a pizza that was meant to be shared between 3 people, because he really felt like stuffing it in the moment without asking if there's enough for everyone. Don't get me wrong, he generally is very considerate, but he has some cookie monster moments. Even so, I've only ever commented on it if he's being rude to guests by doing it, or if he's overeating something he needs to restrict for medical reasons. Considering how much food I made to make sure he has plenty to eat during the day, that comment seemed to come out of left field and was honestly quite hurtful. But I apologized for my tone from the morning and making him feel bad about it, and explained the reasoning and the intention behind it. So Aita, for telling him to not eat the food I made for my lunches? Is it reasonable for him to think I'm trying to control how much he's eating just based on that one comment? Edit, putting this here because almost every comment asked this. He used to cook, clean equally until a couple months ago. He was in a car crash and injured his back, so I've taken on the tasks that are painful for him, or he just doesn't have energy for. He also gets 20 minutes for lunches because of their team schedule, so making a lunch for himself is also often not possible. Comments. Commenter 1. My husband works from home and I'm in the office 5 days a week. He survives without me having to baby him and takes care of his own meals all by himself. NTA. Your husband is lazy. Stop catering to him. Commenter 2. NTA. There are plenty of issues in this relationship. You are in a mother role. Working, commuting, cleaning, cooking, and here he is, at home, contributing less to household chores, unable to control his urges even when indulging will hurt others, needing your reminder or scolding to be just basically considerate, and you don't do this for you, only for others. You say he's generally considerate. How? I bet you'll struggle to produce examples of worth. Now he's pouting and passive-aggressive because he was told one food in the kitchen is for your lunch while doing overtime. What a weak little man. Commenter 3. You have the same division of labor that me and my dog have. I go out to work, and I do all the cooking and cleaning. She stays home. Sometimes I have to shout at her when she tries to steal my food. Only difference is she doesn't hold a grudge, and is very grateful for the life I provide her. And she shows me lots of love and affection. I also don't mind doing all the work, seeing as how she's a bloody dog so unable to split 50-50 like a husband should. Get rid of the husband and get a dog. It's a better trade-off. NTA. Commenter 4. Embarrassing for him that he can't take care of his own meals while he's at home during the day. He's not a child. I choose to make my own work lunches and my husband chooses to buy lunch when at work instead. We split the cooking between us. Stop being taken advantage of. You deserve more. Stories number 9. My ex-husband's ex-girlfriend and I ruined his new engagement and saved another girl from his abuse. Hi THT fam, I absolutely love this show, and I have only been listening for a few months. I actually only found out about THT because someone wrote in a story that involved me. I can't find it. Maybe because I'm new to Reddit. Maybe it was removed. Not sure. But it was written by my now ex-husband's ex-girlfriend. She was feeling conflicted about her choice to send me a binder that detailed how he was abusive in their relationship after finding out I was pregnant. It was full of dated photos, her journal entries, text threads, voicemail transcriptions, protective orders, court records, and police reports. It took me a bit to process everything she gave me, but after I did, I sat down with her and talked for hours about her experiences and the stories he had told me about their time together. In the end, I of course believed her. And as Morgan and plenty of guests have said countless times, I wouldn't have even thought about sitting down with her if I hadn't deep down seen some signs or red flags. That day, she even offered me a place to stay to get out, but I went and packed a bag and stayed with my mom. Turns out my mom never really liked him, and had heard rumors of him being arrested and charged with domestic violence and a number of other charges, which were all proven true by her records. I didn't tell him right away what happened, but that I was going to stay with my mom that night because my grandma had a fall and I was going to be there to help my mom take care of her. Well, he showed up anyway, not out of concern for my grandma, but because he knew I was a lying bitch, which is what he told me when I heard his truck pull up and went outside. Apparently, he decided to become observant for the first time since we got married, and he noticed that I took some smaller but really sentimental and valuable things with me, and left my wedding ring tucked in my jewelry box that he never normally looks in. My mom came out while he was yelling in my face and said she called the cops and he tried to get me to come home with him, but I refused. So I called his ex and she, with zero hesitation, asked for the address and said she was coming over. We all sat and talked and cried and called a divorce lawyer together. I ignored dozens of calls and texts from him that night, and the next day, we all went together back to my house, along with a cop and his ex's husband for some added security, and to create an official record. He had absolutely trashed my things and took off to I don't know where, because of course he had my location. I turned it off, don't worry. But I never had his. But I got a good amount of my things and moved into my mom's spare room temporarily. From that day on, I barely spoke to him without it being through a lawyer, and we got divorced. I got the house, because I was the only one on the mortgage, and had proof of being the only one to really pay the bills. But even after I moved back in, there was damage he did to the house out of spite and rage. I can only imagine what would have happened to me instead of walls and furniture had I been there. Unfortunately, I did end up losing the baby I was pregnant with at the time. It was my first time being pregnant, and I do have some health complications, so this was always a concern. Add on such stress and it was a bad mix, and I guess just not the right time for me. Certainly not the right guys, and I can't help but think someone was, in a heartbreaking and twisted way, looking out for me to make sure I wasn't tied to him forever. That thought has helped me heal from all of this. Now somehow this became an even crazier story. His ex and I have remained good friends since all this, and she texted me a screenshot of him posting an engagement photo with another girl. He has us both blocked everywhere, but women are the FBI, and also look out for each other. So this was also through the grapevine that it made it back to us. We found this girl and sent her the dreaded "Hey girly" message. She left us on read for about 3 days and then asked to talk. So we got coffee together and brought the binder, now complete with my story as well. She said that she'd been asking prodding questions the couple days since we messaged her. And in her words, "The red flags just kept popping up. I know this has been long, so we'll wrap it up nicely that she also left his abusive ass. We are all friends, and we have no plans to let this man have a peaceful life. As long as he keeps abusing and manipulating women, you bet we'll show up with our binder." Comments commenter 1. Damn, reading this gave me chills. So glad you're out of that mess, and it's mad props to you and his ex for having the courage to stand up against him. To anyone reading this, if you see red flags, trust your gut. It might just save you huge heartache later. Solidarity, and thanks for sharing your story. And about the new commenter too, damn. That's some heavy stuff you've been through, sis. Super proud of you for leaving that dumpster fire of a man. Though, you and your ex's ex-def did a hell of a job. Mad respect, keep your head up, gal. Ain't no one deserves to be treated the way he did. And kudos to you both for saving another poor soul from his BS. Y'all the real MVPs 100. As for that lost lil soul, so sorry for your loss, but you're right, the universe works in weird ways sometimes. Take care and stay strong. Reply, thank you so much. Dumpster fire is the only appropriate description of him, haha. When the timing is right, everything will happen the way it's supposed to. Until then, we'll keep an eye out if he decides to try his bullshit again. Commenter 3. You may be a heroine to many, but it is important that you take care of yourself first. If your ex has a history of abuse and violence, and he knows that you and his other former girlfriends are becoming involved in his relationships and threaten to continue to do, so he may realize that the only way to stop you is to do you harm. I have been a counselor therapist for many years, and speak from experience in this matter. He may not directly threaten or harm you so that others may see it, but accidents do happen. Reply, Thank you for saying that, especially with your experience. I'm pretty sure I paid off my therapist's mortgage. For a while I went twice a week. Now I'm down to every other week, but when this all happened she squeezed me in for an emergency slot. So mentally, I am putting in the work to take care of myself. As far as physical safety, I now have a concealed carry license. His ex encouraged me to get it because she did as well when she took out a restraining order, as he did not follow it at first, until he was on an ankle monitor. There's also an added layer to this where he was pretty heavy into the biker community and was part of a club. Well, after his ex broke things off and got him arrested, she was a total badass and went and told the head of that club the whole story too. And they do not tolerate violence against women and children, so he essentially put their own unofficial protective order on her. And now me as well, so that does actually make me feel safer. Of course you can't always plan for absolutely everything, so there is a fear, but I try not to let that consume me. I appreciate your care so much, commenter 4. Wow, that's an incredible mix of heartbreak, strength, and solidarity. What you went through was terrifying, and it's amazing how you turned something so painful into protection, not just for yourself, but for others too. You and his ex showed real courage and compassion by standing together instead of turning against each other. I'm so sorry for everything you lost, but you also saved lives by speaking up and refusing to let him keep hurting people. That's powerful. Reply. I gained so much more than I lost. I feel like I met an entire new version of myself, and that makes it all worth it. I know when the time is right in the future I will be that much better because of this. Stories number 10. I 41M went through my husband's 41M things and I need help. TLDR, found out my husband isn't who I thought he was. Okay, when I say his stuff, I don't mean that we cordoned off areas that the other partner isn't allowed to go through. It's more like a natural evolution that things like papers, notebooks, etc. just end up piling up in a specific area. The reason I don't go through them is just because there is nothing I need from them. Today was different. I needed his mini screwdriver set, and I knew it was in his office somewhere. I had texted him beforehand, and he couldn't remember exactly where he had put them. So he said, just look around, so I eventually find them on his bookshelf. And as I'm picking them up, I set a piece of paper sticking out from one of the notebooks with my name in his hand, writing. My first thought is, oh, this must be something he forgot to give me. Let me take it. What it was a list of different things I had said to him over the last few months. Things like, I love you. I love the way you smell. Don't go. The bed is colder without you here. Things I just said off without thinking. He had written down and dated with estimated time. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to go through the notebook I had found this piece of paper sticking out of. Turns out the notebook was a sketchbook, and he had drawn images of me in various poses like drinking coffee on the couch while reading, sleeping, staring out the window, laughing. When I say images of me, I mean really romanticized images of me, because I don't even look that way on a good day. And believe me, I don't have many good days. The thing is, I've never seen him pick up a pencil. I didn't even know he could draw. I've never seen him draw, especially not anything of me, but there it was. In the sketch pad were also all these loose papers. Ideas for books, games, theories on the afterlife, reflections about life, society, romance, freaking time-space relativity, drafts for short stories, fully composed songs with lyrics and music. A list of things that made me happy and things that made me sad. Special notes about traumatic events I had experienced in my life so he wouldn't forget. Notes about things we did together. It was amazing and fascinating and enthralling, and most of all sad, because I didn't know any of this about him. Despite how long we've been together, I find it difficult to get him to open. Whenever I've tried to find out anything about him, he deflects it back to me. Try to find out what he wants to do. He wants to do what I want to do? I knew nothing about this part of his life, and not from lack of trying. It's like I found out my husband has been living a double life, and I'm seriously wishing it was with another person, because this hurts. I don't know why it hurts, but it does, badly. I've put all the notes and drawings back, tidied up, and I don't know what to do. I feel like if I ask him about it, he'll try drawing back deeper into his shell. Might even stop himself from doing any of this just in case I find it again. But I don't know if I can pretend that I don't know. What I now know, TLDR, found out my husband isn't who I thought he was. Update. I talked to my husband about this. He was not happy that I posted this online before talking to him first. As punishment, I need to inform you all that I am the most dramatic drama queen that ever queened over drama. But we sorted a lot of things out. 99% of it was just because of communication. agreeing past each other, as he puts it. He's also asked me to clear a few things up. It's not his office. It's the office that he just mostly uses. Likewise, it's the bookcase. He wants to make sure it's understood that there is nowhere in our home that either of us don't feel welcomed. If he really didn't want me to read those notebooks, he would have asked me not to. It is not my responsibility to figure out what is and isn't off limits. That's the point of communication. Also, if he really wanted to hide them from me without me knowing, he can think of better places to put it than between World War Z and the Sandman omnibus on our bookshelf. He just never thought they would be interesting to me. He wasn't ashamed or trying to hide a part of himself. He just honestly thought that those things were uninteresting. He realizes now that by doing that, it does seem like that he doesn't want to share his life with me. He always thought that when I was trying to get to know him better, or find out more about his life, or his interests, I was just being polite. To those who said he has no obligation to share every part of his life, which is different from sharing none of his life with me, and even that is bullshit. Because if he didn't want to share his whole life with me, why did we get married? A lot of you said invasion of privacy. But what if instead of something loving, there was something sinister like ways to murder spouse and look like accident? Would you have still said that? Refusing to investigate further into something that involves you because you might violate your partner's trust is denial at best, ignorance at worst. Some of you have an idealized way of how you think relationships should work. Some of you have never been in a relationship. Some of you should never be in a relationship. Not dismissing the idea of a counselor, just think it's a bit extreme. In this situation, it was because of communication. Just because you hear hoofbeats, don't automatically think zebras. Don't know whether to be insulted or proud of the fact that some you think this is AI. The planet is on fire. And fascism is everywhere, and you're worried about something that might be karma farming? Can we exchange lives? Because if that's what makes you froth at the mouth, then you live on easy street compared to the rest of us. Second edit. The 13 bulleted points are not mine. They are what my husband asked me to put in. That's why I started the list by saying he's also asked me to clear a few things up. Comments. Commenter 1. So beautiful. I was expecting the usual horror of finding terrible porn stuff. Proofs of cheating or abusive materials. Fascinating that he has this deep inner life. It's sad that he doesn't share it. But some people do want to keep thoughts to themselves. Commenter 2. I would be beside myself with joy and satisfaction that my husband thought so much about me and that he obviously loved me deeply. You know, we really don't have to know every thought our partner has. He's allowed privacy and self-introspection. Still waters run very deep in your husband's case. You need to dig into yourself and learn to appreciate him for him. I'd love my husband 1,000 times more if I saw this. No. He isn't who you thought he was. He's better than better. Commenter 3. This really resonates with me. As a person who has a deep fear of being seen and perceived in case I am judged or rejected, it has been so difficult for me to open up to my beautiful husband who loves me, and say what I think, share my opinions or feelings or fears or needs. He's never been anything but kind and loving. The problem is in me. I judge myself. I didn't value myself. I saw myself as a burden and a super weird waste of time. When I accept help or admit a weakness, or express a feeling or a need, my body still reacts like I am free diving off a cliff above the clouds, but I am learning that it is safe actually. I hope your partner takes the leap of faith and chooses to start opening up. Being seen is scary, but being seen and loved is a blinding joy. Commenter 4, but I don't know if I can pretend that I don't know. What I now know, you don't have to forget it, but it's not your place to bring it up either. This is not all that different from reading someone else's diary. You found it by accident. You read part of it before you understood what it was. Then you chose to continue violating his privacy by continuing to read it. He loves you in a way that is special to him. Why would you want to change that? Just love him as he is, and mind your own business the way you'd mind your own business if you found he wrote nice things about you in his diary. Stories number 11, AIO. Wife wants me to stop cancer treatments. My wife wants me to stop cancer treatments. And I am at a complete loss 3.5 years ago. My wife and I both mid-upper 50s, married 10 years, moved so we could be in warmer weather. Mostly because cold weather has been difficult with her MS. I was also making a career change. I had been enduring back pain for 6 months, and we correlated it with house renovations to quickly sell our home. We purchased a modular home in a retirement community. One of us was at least 55 at the time, to live in while we decided where we would more permanently settle. After the move and starting a new job, The back pain got so bad that I became incontinent, so went to the ER after running a number of tests and scans. I was diagnosed with an advanced form of cancer and immediately admitted to an ICU with a 24-hour neurosurgeon on staff as a precaution against possible spinal paralysis. I immediately started radiation treatment, eventually a kyphoplasty, and was in the hospital for 3 months, most of which was in ICU. During that time, I coded twice due to sepsis, and my parents, siblings, and children traveled from around the country to see me possibly for the last time. I feel very fortunate to have survived through that. My wife was by my side the whole time, which further solidified my love for her. I know she went through a lot during my hospital stays and recovery at home, and that felt reassuring to me because I was there for her during her 2-month hospital stay and home recovery due to her MS relapse in 2017, as well as 2 other recent hospital stays as a result of the myeloma. I have 3 compression fractures and 3 shattered vertebrae, a fractured pelvis, along with multiple lesions in my lower back. The only way I get relief is laying on my back or side, and I can only be up for an hour or 2 before hurting. I take both extended release and fast-acting pain meds, although I severely limit the latter to try keep the fatigue and opiate fog levels down as much as possible, though I still live in a lot of pain and fatigue. Despite my pain and fatigue, I am independent and do what I can to help around the home. I do all or most of the bathroom and kitchen cleaning, laundry, cooking, and grocery shopping. My cooking consists of mostly from scratch recipes and is very healthy. I even bring my wife's food to her in the living room and take her plate when she is done. I generally do not mind walking her dog about a mile a day and get some exercise to keep my myeloma expert happy. I take her dog out at least 90% of bathroom walking breaks, and there are times that I do not feel up to doing so, but do so anyway. I have been disabled since my initial diagnosis. Between my pain level and chemo fog, I am not confident in my ability to be successful with work. My wife and I previously had an active lifestyle, going out for dinner, drinks, or activities every day or other day. But since my cancer diagnosis and initial return from the hospital, I have no desire for alcohol, and my fatigue and pain limit my ability or desire to go out and do things. I have to take a nap in the afternoon, and evenings consist of TV and rubbing her back, neck, or head. I have encouraged my wife to get out with her girlfriends, as she often gets anxious and irritable if she sits at home for even part of a day. She has a friend in a nearby community that she goes out with, and has gotten involved in some meetup groups for females in the area. Some of groups even plan weekend getaways. She travels around the state for these meetups about once or twice a month, and flies to see her children, grandchildren, about every 3 months. We have gone on 2 week-long cruises in the past year, and while that does wear me out, we figured that if I can rest while we are I can manage to do a few hours on excursions. She does not have friends in our community of over 100 homes. She did have 4 neighbors that she considered close, 2 of which she was friends with a few years before we moved here, but they have recently all turned against her. My wife thinks they are all jealous of her, or that there is something wrong with them. She has worked part-time and has recently started a full-time job to make some extra money, as my disability insurance of $3,000 a month does not go too far with all the credit card debt I have incurred, mostly since cancer. Fortunately, our home is paid for. I even tapped into my 401k to purchase and renovate the home next door, so that it could be used for rental property, providing an extra income source, especially for my wife when I am no longer here. We rented it for 2 years, but my wife does not think we can rent it anymore because of her reputation in the community. She is not happy here and wants to move. So we now have that home on the market. The plan is that between the sale of these 2 homes, we should be close to purchasing a home in a more desirable community, with perhaps a small mortgage if we cannot come up with enough extra money to pay in full. For those not familiar with multiple myeloma, it is incurable, but with successful indefinite treatments can be manageable. My wife has voiced she is not happy that I am continuing indefinite cancer treatment and that I went along with a bone marrow transplant 2 years ago without fully discussing it with her. She believes things would be better and that I would be more like my old self without either of those. She thinks there is only a year difference in life expectancy if I stop treatments. My wife claims that her therapist said she should tell me that this is not a life in marriage and that she deserves better than this. I do not believe she is seeing a therapist, but has instead been listening to one of her old friends who lost her husband to cancer almost 10 years ago. My wife said that it really messed her friend up, My wife's friend said from the start of my cancer diagnosis that cancer doctors don't care about their patients and experimental treatment doesn't work, that her husband suffered less than a year on experimental treatment before passing. My cancer treatment has been partly experimental, although a family member who is a top oncologist, though not directly involved in my treatment even though instrumental in getting me the best doctor and hospital choices, said the main goal was to extend my life for 9 to 10 years in the hopes a cure may be found by then. I see 2 oncologists, and I recently even asked my myeloma expert, one of the top myeloma oncologists in the world, what would happen if I stopped treatment. His response was paraphrased, "Why would you consider that? You are an ideal candidate for treatment." I have had to have long conversations with patients who wanted myeloma treatment, but were not in the physical or physiological shape you are in, and I had to explain to them that there would be little to no benefit considering the financial and emotional duress it will put you through. I should maybe add that I became eligible for Medicare because of my disability, so other than deductibles, my doctors and treatments are all covered. So I again feel fortunate for that. I feel my life is shattered. I had my wife on a pedestal and had all confidence in her, but for the past 4 days, she's been ridiculing me for going through treatment. That includes a 1.5-hour trip to and from a bone marrow biopsy. Why are we doing this? This makes no sense. You are only making them richer. And last night when I reminded her I have treatment today, this is absolutely the most stupidest thing ever. This is a waste of time. I take myself to treatments BTW, so there is inconvenience there. She has even said that she is not married to a man but rather a mannequin, because I just shut down after saying this is to extend my life. Her response is, "What life?" Followed by rants. She said if I were to ask anyone, they would all agree with her. AIO. I feel lost. Comments. Commenter 1. You are not overreacting. Whether or not you discontinue treatment is an immensely personal decision, and it's about your quality of life. If you do not find the pain you are in intolerable, if you have joy in life and take pleasure in various activities, you are well within reasonableness to continue with what appears to be effective treatment for your cancer. I'm concerned that your wife is treating you poorly. You don't deserve to be harassed and ridiculed. It's also concerning that your wife apparently alienates everyone that she comes in contact with. I'm sorry for your situation, and I wish you the best. Commenter 2. Gee. I wonder why no one wants anything to do with your wife. She sounds like a nightmare. She's resentful of you, and she's angry that you're sick. She needs counseling to deal with her anger and resentment issues. And you need to keep doing your cancer treatment. I rarely think couples should split without trying to fix the relationship, but she's basically telling you to die. I've been married a lot longer than you have, and if my husband even implied something like that, he'd be old news. Commenter 3. Your wife has lost all her friends, is not well liked in your community, wants you to discontinue treatment, and mocks you for not doing so. Have you given thought to the possibility that your wife is no longer mentally fit? Could her own illness in any way contribute to her behavior? I do not for a minute believe her therapist told her what she claims they did. Please don't let her influence your decisions. And you may want to consider separating from her for your own mental health. You're underreacting if you're taking her at face value. Commenter 4. The fact that so many people have cut contact with your wife is a huge red flag. Is there any chance that she is cheating on you? I can't understand why so many people would cut contact with her all of a sudden. She's lying about going to the therapist, so she's clearly very comfortable deceiving you. And using that deception to try to get you to give up on treatment? Is she trying to clear the way to be with somebody else? I am so sorry for your situation. You sound like a very good man and a loving husband, and your wife sounds extremely difficult. Has she always been like this? Edit. You're not overreacting at all. By the way, you should do what you want. If I were in your shoes, I would be doing exactly what you're doing now. I have a pretty severe chronic illness, and my partner has always encouraged me to do what I need to do for my body, and he has supported me every step of the way. I'm sorry your wife is not being a partner in this. Stories number 12. He didn't take it well. My new boss, I'll call him Paul, asked me last week why I was leaving early on Friday. I told him I didn't want to hit overtime. This is a whole other story. He reminded me that overtime is time and a half, and he'll totally authorize me to work a few extra hours. I said no, just no, that's it, one word. His face did something scary and he walked away, but then he came back and told me he really appreciated knowing where we stood, and thanked me for my honesty. It felt wrong. Mandatory overtime is legal where I'm at, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Some of comments. Commenter 1. bearing in mind that HR is there to protect the company, not you. It might be worth getting in a notice with them that you felt pressured to work overtime and then uncomfortable when you declined. That way, if he puts something silly in a performance review, you can ask if it's retaliation and cite your HR complaint. Reply, actually, HR was the one pressuring me into overtime before Paul came on board. So they're part of the problem. Commenter 2, dust off that resume, lady. This is not a good place. Reply, working on it. I've been interviewing on my lunch breaks. Commenter 3, no is a powerful word. Lots of folks aren't used to hearing it as a standalone sentence. We often explain the no to soften it. Maybe apologize for saying it, no, sorry I can't, or the like. It would make sense that he wasn't sure of how to respond, given that he offered to authorize the OT and would expect you to acquiesce. Good sign, though, that he came back to you and thanked you for the honesty. Reply, I think it might change the narrative a bit if I mention that I'm a woman. I know what it looks like when a man is upset with a woman's no. Commenter 4, sounds like a good boss, who ultimately took it well. No. Unless he refers this to HR. Reply, on paper, yes, it went well. In practice, I just got a weird vibe. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Update post. We all knew I was going to be fired. It's not a surprise, but the good news is, I took a few very vital functions with me. No one else knows how to do them. And there's no documentation. My old teammates are telling me they haven't seen old Paul around in a while. Meaning he's over in the head honcho building getting drilled, edit to answer some questions. When I was hired, a whopping 4 months ago, there was never any expectation or discussion of overtime. It was to be avoided, unless absolutely necessary. They fired that manager for standing up for us who ensured work was divided fairly, and we didn't need to work overtime. I don't claim to be absolutely necessary. I just know how to do the uploads for paying 2 of our biggest vendors. They're definitely screwed over, but not, oh God, we're going to lose the business. They're just going to pay a buttload in late fees. I'd say a medium amount of screwed, some of comments. On saying no if they ask OP to come back, hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't set foot back in that place for all the money in the world. Commenter, I can't wait for the next update when those vital functions are needed and they're banging at your door. Reply, it'll be a while before that happens. It takes time for the things I did to build up and become a problem. Commenter, I want to know the scary thing Paul's face did. Reply, I can't really explain it. If you're a woman, you've experienced it. If you're not a woman, you probably haven't. Commenter, why do OPs make up fake names? We'll call him Paul. Ain't nobody on the face of this planet going to know any difference in your story if it's Paul. Randy or Julian. Reply, believe it or not, his real name is pretty identifiable and I know he's active on Reddit in this sub. New update, he didn't take it well. Hiya folks. It's been a long time since my last post, where my manager Paul did the scary thing with his face when I said no to overtime and I, naturally, got fired. I celebrated being fired when I got home. There's no dramatic end to this story. Just a satisfying one. I got a new job and I'm loving it so far. Overtime is a last resort, and work-life balance is a policy written into the handbook. As for that hellhole, I can only report the rumors I've heard. The morale up there on the administrative floor is in the negatives, communication coming out is minimal, and a major marketing partner pulled out due to a massive overdue balance. So that's fun. They also failed their sudden OSHA audit. Again, just a rumor. I'm still friends with a few folks in other departments, but I've written that place off. I still flip off the billboards, though. I'll say this. I'm glad I trusted my instincts and started looking, and ensured I was never alone with Paul after our conversation. Something wasn't right with that guy, and I'll be happy to never see his face again. Stories number 13. Aita for telling my best friend's dad he's the reason my friend committed suicide. My late best friend committed suicide back in May of 2021. He was genuinely the smartest guy I've ever known. He was an engineer, and he'd come up with a solution to literally any problem you'd ever face, both practical and even emotional life stuff. He was the sweetest, most compassionate person ever. I still cry a lot about him now, 4 years later. He had a horrible childhood. His dad and uncles were farmers. He grew up in the fields. Back when he was 7-10, his oldest uncle would always take him to teach him their ways, but in reality, he'd rape him. He'd take him to his other friends and they'd abuse him as well. He said they called him fresh young meat once. Eventually, he worked up the courage to tell his parents at 20. His mother immediately believed him and took his side. But his father still to this day denies it. He says his brother, who's long dead by now, would have never done such a thing. They eventually had a divorce because of it. My friend hung himself, just 24 years old, in his bedroom. His poor 15-year-old sister was the one who found him. She's still heavily traumatized to this day. We've stayed in contact, and she's like my own little sister, and I'm helping her with college, and she's living with me rent-free, since I only live 10 minutes away from college. At his funeral, his parents had a full-on fight inside the church. His mom physically attacked and started beating his dad, and she had to be held back by multiple people. His dad just stood there and took it, and he didn't even try to protect himself. His dad is now remarried, and he's trying to reconnect with his daughter. She refuses to. Last night he came over unannounced to my apartment and demanded to see her. She told him she hated him and didn't want anything to do with him, and she wished he died instead. He yelled at me instead, saying that I'm grooming and prey on a grieving young girl. I called him disgusting for thinking I'd ever do that to someone who's like my little sister, and I said it's his damn fault my friend isn't with us anymore, and it's also his fault nobody wants to talk to him and why his family is broken. He started crying and he begged his daughter for forgiveness, saying he already lost his son and doesn't want to lose her forever too. She told him to go to hell and kicked him out. She cried after he left, and I comforted her and got her something to eat. I've been thinking about it ever since, and honestly some part of me feels bad for him. Like he did lose a son and his whole family, but like he was a major part of that. I know how much him denying what happened hurt my friend. He cried to me a lot about it. He loved his dad a lot and always looked up to him. Did I go too far on him yesterday? Edit for more context. His sister is now 19 and is staying with me both for college, and because her mom unfortunately died a while ago. Commenter 1. He failed to protect his son for years. His son eventually told him, and he denied it, and unto this day didn't have accountability. Honestly, he deserves worst. Commenter 2 NTA. It's not like you said it out the blue. This man came to your home and started yelling. Seems like he needed to hear it. Commenter 3 NTA. It's his own fault his own kids didn't want anything to do with him. His daughter may not ever forgive him, and it's all due to his choices. You told him what needed to be heard after he came to your apartment and accused you of some heinous stuff. Reply, right, she's not even like my sister, she is my sister. I'd never even think about doing anything like he suggested I'm doing. Commenter 3 reply, and I believe you. He is purely projecting because of his own guilt. He knows that he did something horrible, and by hoping someone else would do something else horrible, it can elevate what he did and in some way erase it. You did nothing wrong. He sought you out and tried to force his daughter home. When she is not a minor anymore, I'm guessing, my advice would be to be there for her. Hopefully make sure she's in therapy and protect her from her dad. You're a good friend and a brother from another mother. Reply. If it was reversed, he'd do the same to my siblings, so I'm doing the least I can. Commenter 3 reply. You're only doing what any decent person would do and more. You're the only brother figure in her life now. She's going to appreciate it all in the future, knowing she had someone by her. Reply. I'm really the only person she has left in her life. Her mom died a while back. I'm just doing my best to be there for her. Commenter 3 reply. You're doing enough. Just know that, coming from an internet stranger, I can see your effort, and you're doing everything that you should be doing, and she will come to appreciate that she had someone in her corner this whole time. You're doing great, big brother. Reply. Well, I just hope she has a good life because she suffered enough, and I hope wherever my friend is he's resting and not worrying about her. He loved his little sister. Commenter 3 reply, agreed. Commenter 4. I just want to say NTA, and damn dude, you're such a good friend. I just want you to know, I'm sure your old friend would be insanely proud to have had you as a friend, and how you keep showing that love to him. And his sister, absolutely heartbreaking story. But you're the light in that dark story, and goddamn, that's not nothing, man. I massively applaud you, just as I think your friend would be if he was able to see what you're doing. The father and his feelings are not your responsibility. Hopefully he started realizing what a massive shithole he was. And if that's the case, I'm sure he'll be having a really, really hard time. He deserves that. Fuck him. Reply. Well, I'm just doing my best to help her. She's my sister. If it was the other way around, he'd do the same and more for me. Stories number 14. I came back in a 3-piece suit. When I was in college, I worked for a large video rental company in the US Northeast as an assistant manager of a store that staffed 7 people. It was not a crazy busy place, and this was the dying days of video rental. So circa 2011-12 or so, I worked there 40 hours a week, so I was very familiar with all of the regulars that would come in and out. Anyway, the company had a no jeans dress code policy. There was no uniform, just requirements being a collared shirt and not jeans. In practice, employees wore jeans with a polo or button down all of the time with no issue. One day I went to work a 4 p.m. midnight shift at the store. After having been in class on campus from like 9:30 a.m. 2 p.m. I wore jeans and a button-down to school that day so I could go right to work after class. I got there and punched in, and was surprised by the fact that our district manager was visiting our store that day, and he decided he needed to make an issue over my jeans. He said pulled me aside as I was working about 30-45 minutes into my shift, and reprimanded me about violating the no jeans policy. I told him I was sorry. People wear jeans here all the time. I was in school all day. He insisted that I go home and change my pants if I wanted to complete my shift. And as I was the only person scheduled to be working from 6 p.m. midnight, basically so the store could still operate, and I could get paid, I told him, "You realize that my house is at least a 15-minute drive away. That means I will be gone for at a minimum 45 to 60 minutes for me to drive home, change, and drive back, all while he would be the only person working at the store." He insisted no jeans, so I drove home, and I was so angry about this tiny bullshit and power play this guy was making on me that I got to my apartment and decided to change into the absolute fanciest thing I owned at the time. A 3-piece blue suit with a starched white shirt, answer-striped yellow tie. The shirt was even French cuffed, so I wore the fancy cufflinks I'd gotten from my grandfather's funeral. I put on my nicest cologne, biggest watch, clickiest shoes, and walked right back into that family video looking like I was about to get married. My boss saw me immediately, and IDK if he stifled a laugh or rolled his eyes, but he didn't say a single word to me for the next 2 hours that he was there watching me do my job outside of "thank you." I had regulars asking me, "Why are you so dressed up today?" or "Wow, you look nice today." And all I said back to them was, "Well, I take this job very seriously, and if you want to rent movies in a respectful way, you've got to look the part." I don't care if he hated me or respected me for it, but we literally never spoke again until he got transferred to a different district a few months later. Comments, Commenter 1, working at a similar video rental establishment, and we had a holier-than-thou DM who would creepily watch us from across the parking lot with binoculars regularly. Every time we caught him in his churchy 15-passenger creeper van, we got creative to mess with him, and then some. He got mad we were playing MIB2 in store. We had 300 copies, so we pushed it, because it said goddamn bugs in the first 5 minutes. Me being petty, I asked loudly, "Does anyone have a goddamn problem with this goddamn movie being on in store? Parents, does this goddamn movie bother you or your kids?" One parent said, "The only goddamn problem I have here is there's no goddamn copies to rent now." Commenter 2, love it. Variation on the theme? I started work life on Wall Street in the 80s. 3-piece suits every day. By the 90s, the trend was towards casual Fridays. Then eventually, business casual all week. One day, for no good reason, my colleague and I go the idea to have formal Fridays. So we dress down all week, but suits and ties on Friday. The partner on the job, Big 8 Consulting, freaked out, accusing of us of interviewing for jobs at lunchtime. Anticipating this, we ate lunch at our desks. At the end of the day, he confronted us. "What are you two up to?" We just replied, "It's formal Friday." I don't think he was amused. Commenter 3, I appreciate the story. Not sure it was truly petty revenge, maybe would be. More so if you had gotten him fired for pants-based harassment, or something ridiculous like that, but I admire your spunk and appreciate the laugh provided as I imagined your district manager's half-annoyed, half-amused eye roll. Sometimes rules are stupid, and it takes stretching them to the extreme to show the fullness of their stupidity. Reply, well, maybe it wasn't truly revenge, but it was petty. Commenter 4, I had a boss for 2 years, and he told me we can wear jeans on Fridays. After 2 years, he transferred down to another store, so we got a new boss. 2 weeks go by, and I wore jeans on Fridays, and on the second or third Friday of his new role, the DM comes in, and this asshat boss decides to call me out in our store meeting about not being to code with company policy. It wasn't even the DM bitching me out, but clearly this boss wanted to brown nose later was white nose while on the job, and suck up to his boss. Stories number 15, AITA for refusing to give my college fund to my nephew after my sister found out about it. Hi, for the past 6 years I've been working on different jobs in my shithole of a country, in order to save up and get a real education and a proper job later. My parents were always promising to pay for it, but they never did. At some point I managed to get a scholarship, and I used saved money for housing and other bills and spending. I have a sister, and she has a son. She was always complaining how no one ever helped her with money just like me. But unlike her, I wasn't mentioning it that much. I have never mentioned the fund, but my parents have accidentally revealed it to the sister at the latest family gathering. Then my sister immediately turns to me and asks to donate the remaining money to her and her child, saying I could move in back with my parents. My goddamn parents agree with her because family helps family. I obviously refused because I have been saving up for years, and now I am going to need it. Then my sister and parents just turn red, accusing me of being a selfish prick. I quickly fled the family gathering without asking other family members what do they think about it. But I really don't know if I am doing something incorrect or their reaction was the wrong. Commenter 1. I would stop calling it a college fund. Because really it sounds like it's your life savings. They want you to give up all of your hard-earned life savings to help them out. NTA. They are TA. It would have been fine for them to ask for some help, but to demand all of your savings is incredibly selfish. If family is supposed to help family, why are they trying to hurt you? Commenter 2. Your sister and her son can move back in with your parents if she can't make ends meet on her own. Your parents can give her their savings if they want her to have help so badly. If you had no need of it, then you could help her if you wanted it. But as it is, you do need it. When your schooling is done, you will need to establish yourself, and you'll need funds to do it. I don't believe your sister or your parents will help you when you need it. So you have to safeguard that money. Be blunt if you have to, and make sure they know that your sister and her son are not your responsibility, and you will not be giving her your hard-earned money. Commenter 3. It's not a college fund. It's your life savings for taking care of yourself. Your parents can help your sister if they feel so inclined to. Nephew should be told the truth that it's not money that you can give away without hurting yourself. He should not want to hurt his family. Commenter 4. I hadn't heard that phrase until Reddit. At first I thought it was indicative of a post being fake because it's not a real thing people say. But I'm starting to think maybe it's just my family that are just a bunch of individualists. Stories number 16. I was bullied by teachers and recently found out why. I 26F became a teacher 4 years ago as a new teacher. I didn't really know anyone at the school yet, and looked forward to collaborating with my colleagues on making lessons and learning from them since they're veteran teachers. I got really close to the teachers in my small department. There was 4 of us, not their real names. Me, Regina early 30s, Gretchen 40s, and Karen 50s. I attended, and other teachers attended Regina's wedding. I met all of their families, and did fun things like going out to dinner and concerts with them within the first several months of me joining the team. I felt so happy and lucky to be working somewhere that I enjoyed coming to every day to see my colleagues. Shortly after the holiday break, I started to notice that Regina was avoiding me and refused to be alone in the office with me. I would suggest ideas for lessons and activities, but Regina would shut me down, saying something along the lines of my ideas being stupid or a waste of time, and the others would quietly agree with her. At first I thought that Regina was probably having a rough day or going through some difficult times at home. But soon enough, it was summer break and I was being ignored or treated like the little sibling that you don't want around but your parents are forcing you to hang out with. What once was a really fun and positive experience for me started becoming anxiety-inducing and stressful. I dreaded waking up in the morning knowing I had to be somewhere I wasn't welcomed. Fast forward to the following school year, I was hoping that maybe we could start on a fresh slate. Perhaps the previous year became extremely stressful for my colleagues. So their negative feelings with boiling over in their interactions with me? I was wrong. I was being ignored even worse than before. Regina would be interested in Gretchen and Karen's vacations and plans, and wouldn't bother to ask me about mine. I would try to start conversation and be met with one-word responses or responses to get me to stop talking. It got to a point where I felt so much anxiety being in that office that I decided to hide in the library and do my work there instead. After Regina and Gretchen left early once, I approached Karen and asked her if Regina was mad at me because she's been acting really distant since the previous school year. Karen said that Regina could be in a funk because she had a lot going on at home. I empathized with Regina and understood how when you have a lot going on, you may not have the energy you want to socialize and interact with some personalities. One day, while I was hiding away in the library, Karen found me and told me how the department was throwing a birthday party for Regina in the office, and that I should come by. My memory is foggy, but I think I bought bagels and cream cheese to bring to the event. I could be wrong. So take that detail with a grain of salt. My point is that typically, I wanted to be a team player with my colleagues and not seem like I was mooching off of them whenever I could. I come to the party and everybody acts like I'm not there. I stood in the corner and felt tears welling in my eyes because I felt so embarrassed showing up to an event where I wasn't wanted. I'm not saying the attention should have been on me. Obviously, It was Regina's birthday, so all of the attention should be focused on her. But IDK how to explain it other than I could feel that there was an energy in the air that felt like I wasn't welcome. Regina and Gretchen flat out ignored me. People who attended were chatting with each other, laughing and catching up, and I just felt awkward standing there because no one wanted to interact with me. Something in me broke that day. I never went to the office anymore after that, and instead carried all of my work with me to hide away in the library, so I could avoid the anxiety and stress of being in the office with them. We ended up staying for a little bit, but leaving before most of the others. We kept to the plan we spoke about, even though the whole party thing hurt, especially since my fiancé is supposed to be this kid's godparent. Anyway, wedding day comes and this group of friends is running late. My fiancé kept walking away from the officiate when they asked if we were ready to start to buy time for the friends to show up. They were probably 20 minutes late. Whatever, I don't care. I'm as cool as a cucumber, and I'm just going with the flow of the day. We get through the ceremony without a hitch after they arrive. After the ceremony, we do posed pics, family, friends, etc. We get to the girls' pic and Kat is like, "Do you want me in this?" I'm agreeable because I'm in a fantastic mood and don't really think anything of it. At the reception though, some of my high school friends tell me Kat is being weird, rude, and whatever. My other friend told me at the end of the night that Kat announced her pregnancy when I was in the other room. All in all, there was no direct drama with me, and the day was everything I could have asked for and more. I think at this point we are planning on keeping these friends at arm's length and just living our lives. Thanks to everyone who gave me constructive advice. It was helpful to get some outsider's perspective. Top comments commenter. In this situation, I think keeping these friends at arm's length should mean not doing anything purposely to engage with them and leave the burden of mending the relationship on them. If they don't, then you know that they're no longer really friends. And you can cut your losses. You all sound really young, so you've probably not yet learned that a lot of friendships you make early in your adulthood don't survive as you all grow, mature, and choose different paths in life. Congrats on your wedding, and I hope a very long and fulfilling marriage for you. Stories number 18. AIO for leaving my husband at a restaurant after he kept making jokes about my job. My husband 33M and I 31F went out for dinner last weekend with two of his coworkers and their wives. It was a nice place, and I was actually excited to meet them because he's talked about them a lot. I'm a preschool teacher, I love what I do, but it's not exactly high-paying or glamorous. During dinner, one of his coworkers asked what I do, and my husband immediately said, "She finger paints for a living," then laughed. Everyone chuckled awkwardly, but I brushed it off, a bit later. When someone asked about my students, he joked again, "She spends her days cleaning glitter and mediating toddler drama. Basically a daycare referee." I laughed politely, but it stung. Then when I mentioned how proud I was of one kid finally learning to read, he said, "See, that's why she doesn't want kids of her own. She gets her fill at work." Everyone laughed again, and I just felt humiliated. I excused myself, paid my share at the counter, and called a ride home. He texted me saying I embarrassed him and overreacted to a few harmless jokes. But I don't know. I just felt belittled in front of strangers. Am I overreacting for leaving mid-dinner? Comments. Commenter 1. I do have good news for you. I guarantee both couples went home and talked about that your husband is a piece of trash. The fact that he disparaged his wife in front of strangers told them so much about him, and none of it good. Also, they probably applauded you leaving. Commenter 2. That was very rude and condescending of him. I would have left too. Or you could have responded with, "I know a lot about mediating toddler drama from living with my husband." Commenter 3. Not at all. It's one thing to tease privately, but publicly mocking your career is disrespectful, especially in front of his peers. You didn't overreact. You just refused to sit through being the punchline. Commenter 4. Nor. You are married to a man who is willing to disrespect you in front of his colleagues for laughs. Ask him 2 questions. First question. Did any of his colleagues treat their wives this way? Second question. Why did one of the people present ask you about your students if they didn't think that your career was worthwhile? Your husband probably doesn't realize that these couples are quite possibly going to be future parents, and they actually respect what you do because they are going to entrust their biggest treasure to you or someone like you in the not-too-distant future. Don't let him make you feel like less than you are, because you don't even realize just how important you are. You are the person who dozens of people see as one of the most important people in their lives and theirs children's lives. That's a massive responsibility. You probably have no idea how many of the children in your care talk to their parents about you when they get home from preschool. They talk about you a lot. My daughter is 20 years old now. I still see two of her preschool teachers occasionally. They still ask about her, and she's never forgotten them. How many of your husband's professional acquaintances are going to remember him in 17 years? Stories number 19. My mom tried to open a credit card in my name for my own good. So this happened a couple months ago, and I still don't really know how to feel about it. I'm 23 and just starting to get a handle on my finances. I've been using a debit card, paying rent, bills, all that on my own since I moved out. My credit history is short, but I've been trying to build it the right way by using Fizz debit card that reports to credit bureaus. Anyway, one day I get an email from a credit card company saying my application was received. The thing is, I never applied for anything. I thought it was a scam at first, but when I called, they confirmed it was my info. My name, address, even my SSN. After freaking out for an hour, I called my mom. She immediately said, "Oh yeah, that was me. I thought I'd help you build credit faster." Like without telling me, she said she used my info to apply for a card that she'd manage until I got more established. I told her that's not how this works. It's literally illegal to open accounts in someone else's name. Even if it's your kid. She got super defensive, said I was being ungrateful and should be thankful she was trying to help me. We argued for a bit and she ended up hanging up on me. She told my aunt later that I blew up at her for trying to be a good mom. I spent the next week cleaning up the mess, freezing my credit, calling the bank, making sure nothing else was opened. Thankfully, I caught it early, so it didn't stick. But honestly, it just made me realize how much my mom still sees me as a kid she can manage. Not an adult with my own life. I love her. But man, that crossed a line. Comments, commenter 1. This is the textbook definition of credit card fraud. She should be terrified you'll report her. Not angry you don't want her help, commenter 2. Mom of adult children here, I would never. She wasn't trying to help you. What does she mean she'd manage it? No, she was going to use it. Hell no, this is obviously illegal, but so much more. Commenter 3. Your mother needed a credit card and her credit is probably shot. Even if you're not aware of it, I will agree to disagree. Spent an interesting week at a dinner party, where two people who worked in cybersecurity for major financial institutions. Family members opening fraudulent cards in relatives' name is a massive, ongoing problem. In this case, I don't believe the mother of this young woman, who's out living on her own, paying her own bills and seemingly very responsible in doing, just wanted to help. She could easily have brought the subject up over dinner, over lunch, on the phone, etc. Instead, what she did is make a decision, apply for the card, and never say a word to her daughter. I might have bought your premise if the mother had just told the daughter she did it, and then the daughter explained to her that what she did was illegal. But it was the opposite way around. She did not inform her daughter she had done this, not a minor daughter, but a woman who is 23 years old and living independently. Commenter 4. I hope you made an identity theft report to the police. Since nothing was charged on the card yet, your mom will not go to jail. But it helps to protect you from her doing it again. And I bet she intended to use the card for her purchases, not to build your credit. But if she did not make the payments, you would have been the one the collection agencies would chase. Stories number 20. Aita for telling my stepkids that I no longer view them as my kids. I'm 36F and my husband is 42 and has two daughters who are 16 and 13. My husband and I have been together for 8 years. For some context, the girls have a mom who's just not active in their life. She comes around once a year or every other year and stays for 2 to 3 months and then leaves. The problem is when she comes in town, the girls change. For example, after me and their dad got married, they started calling me mom as they felt I was their mom. But when their mom came back, they would stop and call her mom and push me to the side. I understood why they did that then, as they were young and confused and was trying to please her. A couple of years later to present day, I have become used to my routine now of working in the library and figuring things out on my own. Karen has been coming to the library more frequently now and would sometimes say hi to me in passing. The other day, Karen stopped me and apologized to me. She said she was so sorry that she never stood up for me when the other two were being so mean to me. I asked her, "What do you mean?" Karen explains that Regina and Gretchen have been mean to me on purpose for the last couple of years, and Karen didn't want to say anything to keep the peace between her and her work friends. I was shocked. This whole time I thought all of this was just in my head, that I have been overthinking and imagining that they were being mean to me. I asked Karen if I had done something wrong for them to treat me like that. She told me it was over a school event that Regina was running where I gave the wrong amount of change to a student while running the snack stand. Regina claimed that I could have gotten her in so much trouble, so after that day I was dead to her. Gretchen, wanting to prove her loyalty to Regina, jumped on the bandwagon and decided that I was dead to her too, over some measly change that was later resolved that night. The funny thing is, I'm finding out all of this now is because Karen is now being bullied by Regina and Gretchen too. So that's why Karen has been coming to the library more. What makes all of this even funnier to me is that we all teach our students to not be bullies nor bystanders and to resolve conflicts peacefully. Ironic, really. Edit. I'm trying to answer questions or provide more details as best as I can, but I'm trying to refrain from getting too specific for privacy reasons. Comments. Commenter 1. Grown women behaving like children will never not be nauseating. I don't know how you tolerate that behavior. I would have gone bananas on her. Commenter 2. Also a teacher. I was bullied by another teacher for 5 years. I'm autistic and literally can't tell if someone is being mean to me unless they are blatant. So, 3 of those years I didn't know I was being bullied because it wasn't overt. I found out later that this pissed her off, so she changed to blatant bullying. I left after the 2nd year. Commenter 3. I'm so sorry you're going through that. God, what a witch Regina is. My stepmom's school nurse is the same. Just gives you the silent treatment, emotional abuse if she's mad at you. Won't tell you why for months. It makes me physically upset these women are in charge of young kids and they can't even behave like adults at work. Reply. Ugh. I'm sorry, that's the treatment you're getting from someone who is supposed to be a mother figure to you. But honestly, if you had an issue with my mistake, speak to me like a grown adult should and let's resolve the issue. Commenter 4. My mom was a teacher. You know, the one that had the reputation of being a hard ass, but was actually awesome. She said there were 4 types of teachers. The ones who want summers off, the ones who consider it a calling, the ones who think they know everything, but can't teach it, the ones who like having control over a captive audience, usually because they can't relate to other adults. This behavior comes from the last type. They don't know how to act like an adult, so they act like mean girls. Laugh at them for their ridiculous assumption that you care about what they think. Stories number 17. I don't want my fiancé's best friend's wife to come to my wedding. I don't really know what to do, and there is so much backstory here, but I am really stressing about this girl that's invited to my wedding. I'm not really sure where to start because there is a lot that has led up to this moment. Ultimately, my fiancé has had Matt as his best friend for 20 years. Matt is a cool and solid guy but not trustworthy. Matt just got married to Kat a couple weeks ago. But they had been engaged since 2022. They were never in a rush to get married, and anytime anyone asked, that's exactly what they said. After my fiancé and I got engaged winter 2025 and we knew we wanted a short engagement, Matt and Kat immediately started planning their wedding after they found out. Anytime I tried to talk to Kat about her wedding or otherwise, she either gave me an attitude or flat out ignored me. Unless she has had a few drinks where she asks about the tea, she ignores my existence completely. When I attended her bridal shower and wedding, she wouldn't even look in my direction. And when I went up to congratulate her, she sounded less than enthused about it. I recently found out that Kat has been saying terrible things about me when I'm not around and essentially tries to turn one of my closest friends against me. It seems to be working. According to the people I heard from that Kat was talking bad, they think she might be upset that I'm stealing her man's best friend from him. But what? I don't think that makes sense. I don't want her starting any drama at my wedding. I don't want to be stressed that she and my other close friend are spending time together at my wedding. But this is technically my fiancé's call. Right? Since it's his best friend's wife? It's as much his day as it is mine. But I don't want this girl bringing her shadow and putting a damper on the whole thing. What could the solution be here? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think you're going to have a lot more drama if you don't invite her, to be honest. Just don't sit her with your friends. Reply. Yeah, you're right about the drama. We are having a small ceremony, though 40 people. And there's no seating assignment at the restaurant we booked. It's a buffet and kinda just a lounge type of vibe. Commenter 2. Tough. It's not just your wedding. It's also your fiancé's wedding, as you said. And I'm sure he'd prefer it if his best friend had his wife there. Seat her elsewhere and just suck it up for the day. Reply. Actually, he doesn't like her either. Commenter 3. OP, is this a pattern for you? And by this I mean, feeling like you have to manage everyone else's emotions to avoid conflict? The reason I ask is that your other post suggests maybe you find it deeply uncomfortable to put yourself forward, or let other people manage their own reactions. If I'm wrong, then I'll shut my mouth. If I'm not, and this is a pattern, I feel for you. It's a hard pattern to break, but with work it is possible. Finally, let people talk about you if you want. It only affects your life if you let it. Be unbothered and focus on yourself. Reply, thank you for this. I've actually done a lot of work to get where I am, but it's still a work in progress. I've always had issues with feeling like I'm a burden to others, and just putting myself last because it's easier to regulate my emotions than deal with other people's emotions. That's being said, I figured that a wedding day was important enough to put myself first, but I'm not the only one in the picture here. It's my fiancé also. I don't care in the slightest if people talk about me, I just don't want that vibe at my wedding. Commenter 4. I don't think you can exclude her without drama. Be the bigger person. People know who the AH is. Reply, yeah, you're right. Really looking for boundaries I can set, or maybe have people that can run interference during the day? I don't care. Maybe I'm making this a bigger deal than it is? Commenter 5. There are no drama-free options. Pick the one you can live with. What kind of close friends believe the other person without cause? Reply, probably the people-pleaser kind that doesn't like conflict and always wants to keep the peace so they don't stick up for their friends. Commenter 5. You said that Kat was starting to turn people against you. There's a difference between being too wimpy to speak up and switching sides. Reply, maybe I'm viewing it the wrong way. I understand everyone has their stuff going on, but I've been reaching out to my friend to get together with her since the spring. Without fail, she will cancel or change plans which never end up happening, but always makes time for Kat. I've gone out of my way for this friend many times, maybe I'm missing something. And I should definitely have a conversation with her directly as soon as I can, but something seems fishy. Maybe Kat didn't turn this friend against me per se, but something is different than it used to be before Kat showed up. But thank you for helping me realize that I need to talk to my friend before jumping to conclusions. OP should talk with her fiancé to let him know what was going on, and what he thinks about this. Reply, I actually just talked to him about everything going on and he said that everyone that is invited is invited. Asking anyone not to come would cause more drama, which is the opposite of what we want, and that after our day we don't have to associate with them anymore. Honestly, he and his best friend haven't even been talking lately, so I'm not really sure where he stands there. I mean, he still wants him at his wedding, but he doesn't like or respect his best friend's wife. So at this point they have also grown distant recently. Update, I don't want my fiancé's best friend's wife to come to our wedding. Okay, so fiancé and I talked. He had been growing kinda distant from this friend anyway. So he basically told me that we won't pay attention to them since it's our wedding. And afterwards we don't really need to associate with them. After this talk, his best friend Matt called him on a Saturday afternoon and invited us to his son's birthday party. When fiancé told me about this, I asked who was going to be there. Is it a small thing, or was this planned and we were an afterthought? Matt's wife, Kat, would have done all the inviting to the party. Well, we show up and we were definitely an afterthought. This party was pretty huge. Grandparents and great-grandparents were there. All their friends and their families, etc. We put them in therapy, and their therapist had them apologize, and they tried to explain it. The next 2 times it happened, she told me to try and have a talk with them. Their mom decided not to come for the next 2 years, and it was a really peaceful 2 years. The kids were good, enjoying school, their new brother, and were just happy. This year their mom decided to come. She came in August and stayed until about a week ago. This time when she came, the girls changed completely. It started with not calling me mom, to saying disrespectful things to me and their dad, to them telling their brother they didn't like him, and that he wasn't their real brother, and some other stuff. But the main thing they said that really hurt was I wasn't their mom, and that I would never be, and that I'm a bad stepmom, and their mom is their only mom. So last week when their mom left, they slowly tried to crawl back and tried to start calling me mom again, and I told them I didn't want them to call me that anymore. They looked shocked when I said that and asked why. I told them that they told me multiple times that I'm not their mom, and that I'm a bad stepmom, and that their mom is only their mom. So I said I no longer view you as my kids. They looked hurt and went to tell their dad what was said, and he said it's between us. Their therapist thinks I was harsh, but I don't, as they are old enough to realize what's wrong to say and what's right. So Aita. Note, I also want to put I don't blame the younger one as much as I blame the older one, as she should know better. And I understand things with parents are hard, but I was younger than her when I cut my father off, and he was similar to how their mom is. The rose-colored glasses should be faded or fading by now, as she's old enough to understand. Relevant comments, downvoted commenter, info. When their mother is around and they treat you like this, where is their father in that? And what are you both saying while they're doing that behavior? It reads as if this is the first time you've ever laid out the inevitable consequence of being treated like this, and you're enforcing it straight up, which is an asshole move. But the response of your husband that this is between you is a complete abdication of his responsibility here. Like ESH, but I'm leaning towards the hierarchy of assholes is, your husband you, the 16-yo, and the 13-yo is just following what her mother and sister want. But congratulations, you've proved the ex right. I'd guess she alienates them from you by telling them that you're not there for them unconditionally and well. That's true, reply. When they're doing that behavior, he will punish them. Take their stuff away. This is not the first time I've made consequences for them doing this stuff, just last time it was less of extreme, as what they said then was less extreme. Commenter 1. It sounds like their mom is in their ear telling them stuff. Probably lies. About you and their dad. That's what it seems like is happening every time their mom shows up. They probably miss her and want her validation, so they listen to her. Commenter 2. This biggest thing that stood out to me is that your husband had nothing to say except it's between the three of you. What the girls said to you and what you said to them was all very hurtful, and your husband shouldn't be turning a blind eye to this. These words are relationship altering, and he should be intervening to try and keep his family together and work it out. I understand where you're coming from and why you said what you did. I can't say for sure if I would have had the guts to say the words, but it sounds like they maybe needed to be said. Commenter 3. Your girls need to understand everyone, even parents have feelings that can be hurt. My take is you need to navigate this because you're stuck with these mean girls and you are their parent. I wouldn't want them calling me mom either because you don't treat your mom that way. But we all know they are being influenced by biomom, and you need to be the bigger person in this situation. Be the positive influence on them, but set those boundaries as to how you will accept being treated. Also kick your husband in the rear. Commenter 4. They told you repeatedly that you're not their mom. You're just finally believing them. They are absolutely old enough to understand that relationships aren't a switch you can flip on and off whenever their biomom decides to show up. Your husband is a bit of an AH here for not backing you up. NTA Commenter 5. Soft YTA, or rather you're the grown-up. Yes, 13 and 16 is old enough to know better. But teenagers aren't famously good at emotional empathy, and they have a lot to cope with. In a way, they are like a toddler saying, I hate you. You know that the only response is, well, I love you and always will. Their biomom sounds toxic, unreliable, and like she is demanding their loyalty. They are terrified that she will go away again. Maybe for good. If they displease her or do anything wrong, they aren't ready to decide as an adult might not to have this person in their lives. They're just blindly terrified of being abandoned again. You are the stable, loving maternal presence in their lives. Prove that unlike their biomom, you aren't going to abandon them, even at their most unlovable. That doesn't mean put up with insults or bad behavior, but it does mean not punishing them by withdrawing your support. You can calmly explain that they are free not to call you mom, but you will always love them and consider yourself their stepmom. In the years to come, they will feel terrible about this, but don't punish them. Update Aita for telling my stepkids that I no longer view them as my kids? I'm back with an update, and before I give the update, I want to start by answering a few of the main questions I saw. I saw a lot of questions that asked, why do we allow their mother in their lives? I'm not over that my husband feels like it's not on him to keep the girls from seeing her. He will ask if they want to, and they say yes. Another question I saw a lot of was, why doesn't their dad say anything? He does, he's taken away their things and has tried to have talks with them, they just listen and block him out. The reason why he stayed out is because whenever they don't like something, I tell them they run to him. He has said he does side with me on this, but feels I was too hard on them. The update. A few days after I posted this, my husband and I sat down with the girls, and I told them that I was sorry for what I said, and that I worded it wrong. I told them I still view them as my kids. They just aren't allowed to call me mom anymore and have to call me by my name now. I also told them that our relationship is broken, and I didn't break it. I did help a little, but they broke it, and if they wanted it back to how it used to be, they would have to rebuild it. I also told them they had to play with their brother for 3 hours and apologize to him, he's 4. They had a few more punishments, but we did talk to them and try to figure out what she says that influences them so much. We got the answer of, I don't know. We told them that they can't be easily manipulated, and especially the 16-yo with her going to college soon and trying to drive. So we talked about things that could happen with that. We also told them they can't just say what they want to people and expect things to stay the same, especially if it's stuff that hurts people. They apologized for the things they said and how they acted, and said they wanted things to go back to normal. I told them that I would forgive them when they did the stuff with their brother first, and that if they wanted things back to normal, then they would have to work for it. From what they said, they don't want to see their mom for a long time. So they will go to their therapist soon and talk to her about this. Edit, I've worded myself very wrong. They have to play with their little brother as an apology to him. He's 4. If they apologize, he's going to say it's okay and then continue to ignore them. So it's not a punishment, more of his apology. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My husband feels like it's not on him to keep the girls from seeing her. He will ask if they want to and they say yes. Your husband has failed his daughters in protecting them from someone who he knows damages them by continuously building up their hopes and dreams and crashes them time and time again by abandoning them. If he absolutely could not bring himself to not allow their mum in their lives whenever she pleased, he should have been far more vigilant and never allowed them to be unsupervised with her. He didn't. And now you're all here, what a mess. I'd maybe cut out the punishment of having to play with their brother. Definitely keep the punishments for speaking down to him. Make it clear we do not talk to others like that in this household. But don't make him the object of their resentment. He deserves better than to be utilized as a tool for punishment. Even if the objective is to create a better relationship, encourage it. Don't harm it by making it a chore. Reply. I gave the punishment of playing with their brother because an apology won't mean much to him as he's 4. He will probably forgive them and just keep avoiding them like he's doing. So I feel like playing with him would help rebuild their relationship and would be a better apology to him. Also, they don't have to play with him for the 3 hours. I would take 30 minutes as long they try to fix what was broken. Commenter 2. I understand what you're saying. It's not so much as a punishment as an apology. Like when a child hurts someone's feelings and the parent says, "That was rude," you tell them sorry right now. Only your son is 4. And although I'm sure he knows what sorry means, playing with him it will make him feel like everything is okay again with his sisters. And that's all you really want for him, is to know and feel loved by his family. Reply, yes. And also he just accepts anyone's apology no matter what. So playing or doing something he wants will feel more like an apology to him than saying, sorry. OOP's husband needs to consider about the supervised visits with the biological mother for his daughter's reply. He is considering it as he doesn't want this to happen again. Commenter 3. Taking away the title of mom is a wildly insane punishment. It's so horrible for a child. They'll never forget that. It's not making amends. OP has failed these children. She's trying to get away with it. As a mother myself with a horrible mom, I've tried to undo damage from for 20 years. It makes me sick to know what these young girls must be feeling. Telling someone not to call you mom when you're the functional mother figure is disturbing. Reply, I took it away as I don't need it. I don't need them to be confused on who to call mom when they want to please their bio mom by calling her mom and then trying to use the word mom as weapon towards me. Again, I know I'm their mom, I don't need a word to tell me that. But I'm not going to let them use the word as a weapon towards me. Commenter 4, they are children, honey. You are weaponsing your power over them because you're insecure. They are abused and confused kids. You need to apologize immediately for this incredible horror you've wrought. You don't get to do that if you want these girls in your life. That's not something you take away as any punishment. It's inviolable. Their biological mother is horrendous. If you are worthy to replace her, be worthy. Otherwise, you are condemning them to suffering. This is like withholding food or toileting as a punishment. We just don't do that. Reply, it's not a punishment, that's the thing. I can choose what I want to be called the same way they can. They have been calling me by name for weeks by choice when their mom was around. I'd rather them continue and their mom can have the word mom. Commenter 5. I'm glad you and your spouse were able to reach an agreement to help the girls understand that actions have consequences. I suggest you frame the time they spend with their brother as atonement or a consequence, rather than punishment though. The very last thing your household needs is strife that causes a 4-year-old to think he's somehow at fault for the tension. Teamwork and communication, like that displayed by you and your husband, is the best way to teach and show by example. Kudos. Stories number 21. Aita, when I told my father I'm not paying for my siblings' hospital bills. So, for context, I'm in C, and I live in a country where there's no divorce. You can probably already guess where I live, so I apologize in advance if my English is a bit messy, and if I'll misspell a few things. My father and my mother got married when my mom was 20. My father was 25. They got married because my mom is, well, already pregnant with me. When me and my younger brother were 10 and 7, my dad left us. He said he wasn't happy anymore and that the marriage shouldn't have happened because they rushed into it. I never heard from him since. Only when a few of his relatives would visit. My mom since then raised us. She would work multiple jobs, a caregiver at weekdays, and do laundry for other people at weekends to provide for us. When I graduated from college, I took a job at a call center for 2 years, then used those experiences to apply for a virtual assistant position since the exchange of dollars to my currency is a lot. I eventually got us in a place where we are now living comfortably, and my mother doesn't have to work again because I can provide. And my brother can enroll in a private school. About last week, my dad suddenly contacted us again after all those years that he disappeared. He said he was sorry, and that he was immature. He introduced his new wife to us, or as I like to call it, glorified mistress, because his marriage to my mom was never dissolved. He introduced me to his kid with his new wife. The kid tried to call me an older sister. I told him he's not my brother. He's a stranger to me. Just this morning my dad called. He was begging me for money. His kid just got dengue, and their hospital bills are already piling up. I told him no. He and his wife can figure shit out, like he forced my mom to do when he left for them. And that I don't have any other sibling. My mom told me that I was a bit harsh, and that I should help, because they're still family. But I just can't bring myself to forgive my father and his new family for the things they took from me, my mom, and my actual younger brother. Commenter 1, fuck that piece of shit. The hospital isn't going to turf the boy out to die. Commenter 2, NTA. Though isn't it weird that he showed up right before his kid had an emergency? I doubt your half-brother is actually sick. He might just be trying to scam you if he is sick. Your dad can use all the money he saved from not supporting you and your brother for the last decade. Commenter 3, they're still family. They weren't when you needed anything for decades. Now they're family? Would have been fucking nice when your mom was struggling and you were totally adrift. He's been telling you to fuck off for 20 years. Why is it harsh for you to do it to him once? Commenter 4, certainly NTA, but your mother's comment does raise concerns. If you don't help, and she still sees them as family, your mom might start to help them, especially when pressured. And since you provide for your mom, that way you are still providing help to the asshole. This forced helping by proxy happens a lot in C cultures. It is infuriating to me and a lot of others who come from a different culture. Edit to add, are you sure the hospital bills are not a lie either? Sounds like he became aware of your success and tries to find a way to get his foot back in the door into your family so he can profit from it. Nothing more than that. Stories number 22. My mom had to become masculine to survive. And it made me realize how wrong those labels are. My mother was talking to me the other day about how, as a wife and mother, she had to embrace her masculine energy to survive. My father was barely physically present and emotionally absent, so she became what the world calls masculine, meaning she hardened, grew colder, made decisions, carried the family, and learned to function without softness. She said she didn't have the luxury of being emotional or vulnerable because someone had to keep everything together. That conversation stayed with me, because the way she described her survival, strength, logic, assertiveness, shouldn't be labeled masculine. It was human resilience. We really need to stop labeling qualities as feminine or masculine. Society decided that feminine means emotional, nurturing, and vulnerable, while masculine means strong, rational, and dominant. But these are not gendered traits. They're part of the full range of human experience. I understand that in nature, males and females have distinct biological roles, and that's how we evolved. But we've evolved psychologically and socially too. We're not just surviving anymore. We're capable of thriving in ways that transcend the old binaries. The qualities that once helped us fulfill gendered survival roles now belong to everyone. When we assign emotion and vulnerability to women, we shame men out of feeling. When we assign power and logic to men, we teach women that those traits don't belong to them. We end up with emotionally repressed men and emotionally depleted women, both starving for balance. The truth is, all of us carry both energies. You can be soft and strong, logical and intuitive, assertive and gentle. None of those things cancel each other out. They complete each other. Wholeness begins when we stop performing gender and start embracing humanity. Comments. Commenter 1. Studies have also found that men are likely to reason with emotions and misidentify it as rationality, while women are likely to reason with rationality and call it emotions, so the gendering isn't even accurate. Commenter 2. I'm honestly fascinated by these conversations. You're absolutely spot on, and I commend your mom for doing what was necessary as a parent and not what was expected of her as a woman. It's interesting to see how over the centuries our roles have shifted and changed in the familial and societal structures. And understanding how we've put ourselves into boxes only enables us to break free from them. There is no box. No one shall be contained. Commenter 3. My mom says my father is a feminine man who forces her to be in her masculine. For the life of me, I cannot figure out what is masculine about my father. The bastard loves guns, calls all women bimbos, expresses himself exclusively through anger, dresses like shit, doesn't know how to cook, wishes he could eat exclusively meat, and can't even tell someone I love you. I also can't figure out what's so masculine about my mother. Considering she's a conservative woman, she's living up to what should be her own feminine ideal because she's a stay-at-home mom. She's raised 3 kids. She's a homemaker. She's not a trad wife in flouncy dresses. She's in her pajamas 90% of the time, but that's her own choice. It's not my personal definition of femininity. But every time she complains about my father being so feminine, I frankly feel befuddled. I feel like if my father was a feminine man, he wouldn't run out of the room when someone mentions the existence of menstruation and would have, at some point in his life, developed empathy. Commenter 4. Women can and should be logical. Men can and should be emotional. There are positive and negative manifestations of either. Moderation in all things. People are questioning the old gender paradigms. But sometimes it seems people might be taking the worst of both. I've been wondering if there's a soft bigotry of low expectations cutting both ways. Women aren't expected to be brave. Men aren't expected to be vulnerable. There's a time and a place for both. I think there is some sense in loosely associating certain behaviors, preferences with one gender or the other. There are radical changes in these associated with HRT. A friend who never wanted kids started desperately wanting them after she transitioned. Stories number 23. Can't get simple office accessories? I'll bring my own. 13 years ago, on my very first job, I was hired as a network administrator at a newly established state-owned company. Everything was new there, including processes to request office accessories, so I was settled in an office room with bare minimum office accessories. So I wrote down several simple items to request them from support department at then. It was just a guy. Later it turned into a 30-people department. Items included simple things such as facial tissues, cloth hanger, it was winter and I had nowhere to put my jacket, headset, 3 colors of pen, and a whiteboard and markers and wiper. The support department guy took a look at the list and continued with excuses about each item. Facial tissue are not for non-managers. Pens you can request only blue once a week. If you bring the previous empty pen, whiteboard, and its accessories are also for managers. So is the cloth hanger like, non-managers are not allowed to have a jacket? And for the headset, he just laughed like, welcome to a state-owned company, young one. I just realized how different are desks of non-managers and managers. It was these simple things, and I really didn't care spending myself. I just was wondering why others haven't yet. So the next day I came with a facial tissue box with a beautiful design, a really good short cloth hanger for near my seat, good pens of all colors, and a light white glasses whiteboard, plus some markers to hang behind my chair, my own gaming headset, and a nice plate full of my hand-chosen sweets. My chair looked perfect. I really mean it. Especially when all other desks in other rooms were just copy-pastes of the same sick idea. It was even looking better than managers' desks. By the end of that day, every manager and non-manager that came to my room, their first impression was looking jealously to everything for several seconds, and then asked me how did support department gave me these items. My answer? Just normally, with some pride in my tone, replying, the company's rules are written by beggars. These are my own, and it costed me nothing to make my room look like this. The next day, support department guy came to my room and told me, take all your own stuff home. I will give you the same as everyone. I replied, but I'm not a manager. He said we changed the rules. Everyone deserves these things now. Edit napkin to facial tissue, stories number 24. Aita for telling my soon-to-be SIL that I don't want to host her brother over the wedding weekend. So, I-42F have been asked to host part of my brother's Brian 38M fiancé's family for their upcoming wedding next weekend. We'll call the fiancée Diane. She's 39F. They've been together almost 5 years. First of all, my brother isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He has fallen for lie after lie and still doesn't really see the lies and years of her fake persona and manipulative behavior. For example, she lied that she couldn't get pregnant in the beginning. Literally said her uterus has been removed. Then why are you having a period, psycho? They now have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old still. These were miracle pregnancies. She told him they were ectopic tube pregnancies. Apparently my bro cannot use Google, nor does he believe countless family and friends who told him this was impossible to give birth from an ectopic pregnancy. He works a lot and never was able to get to an OB appointment, and even if he did, he likely wouldn't have asked the doc. In the end, he said he loves her and it doesn't matter. Okay dude, fine. We'll be happy for you and our new nephews. Needless to say, I am and much of our family are not fond of Diane. She is a user of the highest order, disposing of people like Kleenex once their usefulness has expired. I've watched her manipulate my parents, my bro, my sister, her own friends and family. It's just been gross when I've had to deal with her at family holiday events, weddings, funerals, just you. Now, they are finally getting married next weekend. They've been planning this for about 6 months, as she is a huge Halloween fanatic, but doesn't want to share her anniversary with Halloween Day. It's not a huge event, about 50 people. Mostly our family and some of hers, her brother, his wife, and 4 kids cannot afford a hotel. This is something Diane has known about for months, but just asked me last night if they could stay with us since I have the biggest house. This is an unreasonable and undesirable situation for me for a multitude of reasons. 1. I live almost 3 hours away from the venue, and the town they will be hosting events such as final dress fittings, rehearsal dinner, bachelor and bachelorette parties. That will be a lot of back and forth for them, especially since my kids and I plus my +1 are only invited to the wedding and reception. They couldn't even carpool with us because we aren't attending those events. 2. Kids under 13 are not invited to the wedding or reception, assuming all the adults and my teens will be at the wedding. Who's going to watch their kids 1, 4, 5, and 9, and where will they go during the festivities? My kids are attending their uncle's wedding. We're going to support my brother and see our other family members. So, if the plan is to see if I or one of my kiddos 17, 16, and 15 will do it, the answer is no. 3. I have met these people once in passing. I know nothing about them at all, and if they're anything like their sister, well, I don't want to. Aside from that, there's the whole trusting strangers in my home with my kids as well. Nope. 4. Why exactly can't they stay with Diane's parents? They have a 3-bedroom home and live alone. Why can't they host their son and grandchildren? Answer: he and his dad don't get along, and since her dad is the only decent person in her family that I have met and liked, that's a red flag for me. I told Diane and my brother that I really am not comfortable with this. And the response was, please? It's family. Ugh. My boyfriend, weird to say BF at my age, said he would stay with us all weekend if I was uncomfortable having them there alone, and would help out since I will also be expected to properly host, which means cooking for everyone, etc. That's great. And would help with the uncomfortable part, for sure. But even still, aside from the trust issues I have, I am primarily worried about where their kids will be during everything. The response was, we're still figuring that out. After that, I doubled down on the no, since I have visions of them saying the 9-year-old could babysit 1 4. And 5-year-old at my house, my family is 50-50 on me being an AH about it. And Diane's family, except her parents, also think I'm being an AH since it is just 1 weekend, and I usually host all the holidays and such. They say I am being a snob about it, and I'm out of touch because I cannot appreciate their financial struggles. JFC, up until a decade ago, I was exactly in their shoes monetarily. I don't care that they don't have Bezos money. I care that they are strangers. Someone in my house will likely be expected to babysit and miss the ceremony, or be expected to babysit all weekend while their parents are out partying. And the fact that there is family tension between them and their parents is giving me anxiety about what I can expect from my potential guests. Am I being an asshole? Update. I've been getting bombarded with calls and texts from Diane and my brother, which I ignored until about an hour ago. I calmly asked, "What's up?" When I answered, I could hear the panic in her voice as she rushed to berate me for being so cruel while she had so much else to deal with. Lady, I work full-time, travel for work, have 2 kids playing high school football, have 2 kids who have part-time jobs, and I am a single mom. I don't exactly have an easy schedule and free time myself. She went on to say that she had been so sure that I would be willing to help Reed, babysit her family that no one else wants around. It seems that she already promised them they could stay in the pool house. Let's be clear, the pool house has a bathroom, a large living area, and a tiny kitchenette. It's barely the size of a primary bedroom, let alone big enough for 6 people. It's not some extravagant space. I told her, sorry, but that's not my problem. You should have asked first. I also have the kids and I booked at the XYZ hotel because I plan to drink at the wedding. And I'm not driving home after that. How did you plan to get them to my house anyway? Are they renting a car? Who's babysitting? Why can't your parents take the kids if the issue is with your brother? Why would he bring them if he couldn't afford it anyway? This is something seriously poor planning. I fired those questions off at her like bullets out of a gun. She said this was dumped on her and she was stuck, I said. So you thought I was the best choice to dump this on to take it off your plate. We aren't exactly close, Diane. Please stop asking me. I'm not going to do this for you. My answer is final. Sorry. Not sorry. We're uninvited to the wedding. I don't believe my brother will allow that. But if it comes to pass that we don't get to go, good riddance. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You are absolutely not the asshole here, and I wouldn't let them into my house either. What if the kids steal your jewelry? What's to prevent the adults from going through your papers and stealing your identity? Best case scenario is that they eat everything in your house, drink all your alcohol, and leave you a major mess to clean up. It's your home. If they're struggling so much financially, why are they coming? It's one thing to host an adult couple, but this is a whole pack of people who will expect you to host, and pay their way, and probably use your car. Why aren't they grandkids staying with Diane's parents, if the issue is with the son? There's something fishy here. These are complete strangers whose own family don't want to host them. Why should you? Stand your ground, lady. No means no, and maybe the family members who don't like your decision can take them in. Reply, I agree with all of this, and it's why the situation is giving me pause. I have even considered offering to pay for 2 hotel rooms for them near the wedding venue, but I know that will get twisted back around me being a terrible person who is above her family, or some shit, or likely set a precedent that I'll pay for things and solve their problems. Commenter 2, I love that please, it's family. Well, it's not OP's family, so that doesn't count. NTA, I think you're really smart not letting yourself be manipulated. Of course, she'll probably get everyone she can to hound you. So just stay off social media and text, not your concern, to anyone who texts you or sends emailed guilt trips. Reply, oh yes, that's already happening. The hounding? I am proud of myself for not snapping anyone's fucking head off yet. I really just want to book them a hotel, but then again, that's still me solving their problem. I texted my other brother who lives out of state and asked him where he is staying when he comes into town. They have a hotel in that town. I am currently in the process of begging him and his family to come stay with me. I think I may have averted this crisis. What about a hotel near the venue? Cheaper than a 3-hour drives for the brother and his family. Reply, God, yes, not to mention they would need to rent a car if they stayed out at my place. If they stayed in a cheap hotel in town, they would be able to catch rides to events and whatnot with their local family members. Seems so simple to me. Gotta say, I am curious about why their family has blackballed them. And who in the hell I pissed off that my punishment is being the chosen one to deal with them. It's not happening. Many have a valid point that even we aren't going to want to drive 3 hours home after the wedding and reception. I booked us rooms for the night of wedding. OP on having security for her house if the family tries to show up. Reply, fortunately our road has a gate. And before the gate was put on the road last season, our driveway had a gate. We live in touristy area in the summer. They won't get too close, and I plan to ignore my phone. I would feel like the most horrible person to turn kids away at night, but I can do it if necessary. I suppose I should text Diane and be very clear that if they show up, they will be stuck. There are no taxis. Most places to stay are Airbnbs or small bed and breakfast type places. If they cannot afford the Days Inn near the venue town, no way they can afford one of those places around here. Actually, I'll get in touch with her dad. I know he or his wife will make it understood to them. And if they show in the area, ignore, update. So, my Stebsil called me and invited us back to the wedding today. Wedding is Saturday. I could tell it was a very forced action. On her part, not an ounce of sincerity in her apology, nor any mention that she was in the wrong save for overreacting in the heat of the moment. I had already spoken to my kiddos about what they wanted to do and their thoughts on it if they were to re-invite us. And they were of the same mindset as me. Fuck that. So we made other plans for the weekend. I passed this along to her, and she had the audacity to say, oh well, then you guys can babysit, right? I literally laughed and told her to fuck off. She started crying and saying that I never gave her a chance. I've always been so mean to her, and she doesn't know what she's ever done to me, blah blah blah. I not so gently acknowledged that I never gave her the opportunity to pull the wool over my eyes because I am smarter than her. But I have watched her quietly manipulate almost everyone in my family in some way or another. My brother is angry with her because we're not coming, and it was her responsibility to make it right, and she completely blew it. To be fair, my bro hasn't communicated to me once personally about the incident, and that kinda pisses me off too. Like, you couldn't tell me you don't feel the same, and you would like us to come. I've got my dad saying, of course he wants you guys there. He is so pissed at Diane. Pops. So, that's all, folks. We'll be spending our weekend at the Michigan versus Michigan State football game and tailgating with the best fans in the state. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Other than saying she didn't believe she could have children over 5 years ago, which really is none of your business. How has she caused family drama? How has she manipulated people? You're NTA because you can decide who can and can't stay at your house. But you do come off as a cold bitch who probably didn't give her a chance. Reply. This isn't a she didn't believe she could have them and lucked out type of situation. She baby trapped my brother by saying she had her uterus removed. No one without a uterus can ever get pregnant. And an ectopic pregnancy is a 1 in a million fallopian tube pregnancy that results in the death of the fetus and possible death for the mother. Neither of these things are possible at all. There was no misunderstanding. She lied and manipulated him. Moan of my business? Maybe not. But it surely shows the type of person she is. I did give her an honest try. She wasn't my cup of tea for sure, but I didn't give up on her until the baby drama and all that has transpired since. She told my parents she has stage 3 ovarian cancer, but her insurance wouldn't allow her to pursue treatment unless she had a dedicated care person. My dad quit is his job to provide that for her. There were all kinds of mishaps. He never got training, never got paid, etc., etc. 3 months later, she admitted she didn't have cancer, just didn't want to be alone all the time. So my dad took an early retirement for nothing. I don't know how many times she asked one of my kids to babysit with pay, and then never paid them. Twice. There was no food in the house, and my daughter had to order DoorDash to feed my nephew. In itself, not an issue. But don't lie. Just say, I can't afford to pay you, but could you help me out? She told her boss that she was missing so much work because her fiancé is a drug addict and abusive towards the kids. So she takes off the days when he doesn't work to protect her kids if he is high. Of course, her employer called CPS. Turns out she was the one with a drug issue. She went to rehab, and all is well in the world again. The list goes on and on. If she says the sky is blue, you damned well better look out the window and check for yourself. Sadly, my brother chalks all this up to her struggling with addiction. But she's sober now and better, according to him. For what it's worth, she's still a shit person. If that makes me cold-hearted, then so be it. Commenter 2. I hope they don't know where you live and try to break into your home or something stupid like that. Reply. Well, fortunately, our home has a gated drive and security system. And this past spring, the township we live in turned our road into a private gated road due to many issues with summer tourists. Initially, I had considered removing our gate because it seemed like overkill. But now it seems like a blessing in disguise. Commenter 3, she just sounds like a right pain. Have a great weekend away from her mess. Also, her lack of effort in the apology. Not to mention re-inviting you days before the wedding is just childish. Good luck to your brother. Reply. Yes, he's gonna need it. Commenter 4, NTA, yeah. Your brother told her to fix it and handed his balls off in the process. And your dad's enabling his bullshit. This is peak Reddit advice by a mile. But don't be surprised if they try to leave the kids at your door under the guise of, you're not coming so you're free, or some shit like that. Get a doorbell camera that aims at the entrance to your house so, if she pulls that particular brand of bullshit, you call the cops and say that you're in East Lansing. I am a college football fan myself, and did not consent to the kids being dropped off and nope, go have fun at the game, let them drown. Stories number 25. Finally feeling like my brain isn't broken. I'm 34 years old, and for the first time in my entire life, I feel like my brain is actually working the way it's supposed to. I don't even know how to describe it without tearing up. Yesterday I took my first Adderall pill, 15 milligrams, tiny, unassuming. Just sitting there in my palm like it was nothing, and yet, that little orange tablet flipped my entire world upside down. I've spent my whole life being told I was so smart, but lazy, that I just needed to focus, that I was too emotional, too impulsive, too forgetful. Every teacher, every boss, even my own parents said the same thing in different ways. You could do so well if you just applied yourself. If only they knew how hard I was trying. Growing up, my room was a disaster. Not the cute, clothes everywhere kind of messy, but the kind where I'd start cleaning one corner and somehow end up sitting in the middle of the floor surrounded by piles of random junk, crying because I couldn't decide what to do next. I lost homework constantly, forgot due dates, missed appointments. I always thought I was just scattered or lazy. In high school, I barely got by. Not because I didn't understand the material. I could explain concepts to other people easily. But because I couldn't sit still long enough to finish assignments. My notebooks were half full of doodles, story ideas, and random thoughts. I used to joke that my brain had 47 tabs open, and none of them were playing the right song. College was the same. I barely made it through. I'd pull all-nighters, procrastinate until I hated myself, and then crash from sheer exhaustion. I remember my roommate Brittany once looking at me and saying, "You live in chaos and somehow call it normal." She wasn't wrong. Fast forward to adulthood, and the chaos didn't stop. It just evolved. I've been married for 5 years to a man named Tyler, who is one of the most patient people I've ever met. He's a mechanical engineer, organized, methodical, steady, the complete opposite of me. I think that's why we work, but it's also why I've spent so much of our marriage feeling like a failure. Tyler would make plans, budgets, lists, and I'd lose them. I'd forget important dates. I'd start projects and never finish. I'd get hyper-focused on something random like reorganizing the pantry at midnight, but then completely forget to send a time-sensitive email for work. Last year, I got written up at my job for time management issues. I work as a marketing coordinator, and I'm great at creative ideas, brainstorming, problem-solving, but I'm terrible at follow-through. My boss, a woman named Denise, told me during my review, "You have the ideas of a senior strategist, but the execution of an intern." It stung. But she wasn't wrong. That same night, I came home, sat in the kitchen with Tyler, and just broke down. I told him, "I think something's wrong with me. I'm trying so hard, but it's like my brain just won't cooperate." He didn't say much, just squeezed my hand and said, "Then let's figure it out." That's how it started. The endless rabbit hole of researching ADHD in adults. I stumbled onto a few Reddit threads and TikTok videos, and I swear it felt like people were describing my entire existence. The impulsivity, the time blindness, the emotional dysregulation, the constant mental noise, the shame. I made an appointment with a psychiatrist, Dr. Lawson, during our first session. I cried for half of it. She asked about my history, my habits, my coping mechanisms. I told her everything. The late assignments, the impulsive decisions, the constant restlessness, the burnout cycles. After a few sessions and some questionnaires, she looked at me kindly and said, "You have ADHD. Inattentive type." I didn't even know how to react. Part of me felt relief. Another part felt anger. Anger at all the years I spent thinking I was broken or lazy. Anger at how many people dismissed my struggles. Fast forward to yesterday, Dr. Lawson prescribed Adderall, starting small, she told me. "Take it in the morning with food. Don't expect fireworks. Just notice how you feel." So I did. I woke up early, took it with my breakfast, and went about my morning as usual. Around an hour later, I was sitting at my desk, working on a report I'd been putting off all week. Normally, my brain would jump from one thing to another. Email, Slack, phone, random thought about laundry. Back to email, then social media. But this time, it didn't. It was quiet, not empty, not slow, just quiet. For the first time, I wasn't fighting myself to stay on task. I just did the thing. I finished my report in one sitting. I didn't forget what I was doing mid-sentence. I didn't zone out. It was like someone had finally handed me the user manual for my own brain. By the afternoon, I had completed 3 tasks I'd been putting off for days. I looked around my office and actually felt calm. Not manic, not overstimulated, just calm. I started crying right there at my desk. When Tyler came home, he found me sitting at the table, staring at my laptop and crying. He panicked, of course. "Babe, what's wrong?" I just laughed through tears and said, "I think this is what it feels like to be normal." We hugged, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a burden. It's wild how much this one diagnosis has changed the way I see my past. I wasn't lazy. I was struggling with an undiagnosed condition for over 3 decades. I wasn't messy because I didn't care. I was overwhelmed by executive dysfunction. I wasn't forgetful because I was careless. I was trying to survive in a brain that was constantly sprinting in 10 directions at once. Since yesterday, I've been taking it easy, seeing how I react, journaling my thoughts. There's a sense of clarity I've never had before. Things that used to feel impossible, like responding to emails or folding laundry, don't feel like climbing a mountain anymore. I know medication isn't magic. I know it's just one piece of the puzzle, but for me, it feels like I've finally been given a key to a door that's been locked my whole life. I think back to all the times people told me I was too much or not enough, and now I just want to go back to that younger version of me. The one sitting in a pile of unfinished homework, crying because she couldn't focus, and tell her, "You're not broken, you just need help." I still cry sometimes, but they're happy tears now. Because after years of chaos, for the first time in my life, I can hear my own thoughts without the noise, and it's the quietest, most beautiful sound I've ever known. Update: it's been about 4 months since I took my first Adderall, and I still get emotional when I think about how much my life has changed. I don't mean that in a dramatic, everything is perfect now kind of way, because it isn't. But it finally feels manageable, and that alone feels like a miracle. The first few weeks were strange, my brain was adjusting, and I was almost suspicious of how calm I felt. It's like I didn't trust it. I kept waiting for the chaos to come back, for that wall of fog to return and swallow my focus whole, but it didn't. It stayed quiet. I didn't realize how exhausting it had been to constantly fight my own mind, until I didn't have to anymore. That's not to say everything was instantly fixed. The first month, I overcorrected. I made color-coded planners, detailed to-do lists, and set 100 reminders. I was terrified that if I didn't use this newfound clarity perfectly, I'd waste it. My psychiatrist, Dr. Lawson, gently told me during one of our check-ins, "You're trying to manage yourself like a robot. ADHD medication helps. But you're still human." That hit hard, so I slowed down. I learned that focus isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters. At work, things have improved dramatically. My boss, Denise, actually pulled me aside a few weeks ago and said, "I don't know what changed, but your work lately has been outstanding." I laughed and told her, "Honestly, I finally got diagnosed with ADHD." She blinked for a second, then smiled and said, "That actually makes perfect sense." I told her I wasn't using it as an excuse, but more as an explanation. She nodded and said, "It's not an excuse, it's a reality. I'm proud of you for taking care of yourself." That small bit of understanding from her meant more than she'll ever know. I've started finishing projects ahead of deadlines. Meetings don't feel like torture anymore because I can actually stay present. I even got a small promotion last month, not a huge one, but a sign that I'm finally being recognized for what I've always been capable of. Now that my brain isn't working against me, at home Tyler's noticed the change too. He says I seem lighter, less anxious, more consistent. He told me the other night, "It's like the real you finally got a chance to come up for air." That made me cry all over again. We've developed a few systems that make daily life smoother. We use a shared Google Calendar for everything: appointments, bills, even meal plans. I set small goals each week instead of massive to-do lists that overwhelm me. And on days when my medication wears off early or I feel scattered, Tyler gently reminds me, "Hey, it's okay to rest. You don't have to be perfect now just because you finally feel capable." I also reconnected with my old roommate, Brittany. After telling her about my diagnosis, she said, "I knew something was going on back then. You were always juggling 100 things and never stopping to breathe." She laughed and said she was proud of me. That validation from someone who knew me in my messiest years meant a lot. There have been tough moments, though. The emotional part of ADHD doesn't vanish with medication. I still get overwhelmed sometimes, especially when I think about all the years I lost to shame and confusion. There's grief in realizing that life could have been different if someone had caught this earlier. I've cried over that a few times in therapy, but I've also learned to forgive myself. None of it was my fault. Dr. Lawson encouraged me to keep a proof list, a small notebook where I write down every time I notice a positive change. It's filled with things that might seem small to others but are huge to me. Things like folded laundry the same day I washed it, responded to an email immediately instead of waiting until it became a problem, started and finished a report in one sitting, didn't forget my friend's birthday. Every time I look at that list, I see tangible proof that I'm not lazy. I just needed the right tools. Socially, things have changed too. I've started explaining my ADHD to close friends, and instead of awkwardness, most of them have responded with compassion or recognition. One of my friends even said, "Wait, that sounds like me," and decided to get tested herself. She was diagnosed last month. It's amazing how much we normalize suffering in silence. The other big change is how I talk to myself. I used to have this constant internal monologue of criticism. Why can't you just do this? Why are you so scattered? What's wrong with you? Now, when I catch myself slipping into that, I stop and reframe it. I tell myself, you're learning, you're adapting, you're doing your best. That's been harder than any medication adjustment. But it's also been the most healing. I still take my Adderall every morning. Some days it works beautifully, other days it's just okay. But even on the off days, my baseline is so much higher than it used to be. I can manage things, I can focus, I can breathe. Tyler and I joke that my brain used to be like 37 browser tabs with one of them playing music I couldn't find. Now it's like maybe 7 tabs, and I can finally see which one's making noise. I think that's what this medication has given me. Space, not perfection, not superhuman productivity, but space. Space to think, to feel, to exist without drowning in mental static. And if anyone reading this suspects they might have ADHD as an adult, please, don't wait. Don't keep punishing yourself for things that aren't moral failings. Talk to someone. Get evaluated. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means your brain works differently. And that's okay. It took me 34 years to realize that, but I'm finally here now. And I've never been prouder of myself. Final update. It's been almost a year since my diagnosis now. And I can say without hesitation that getting evaluated and starting treatment was one of the best decisions of my life. I used to think ADHD was just about being distracted or forgetful. I had no idea how deeply it affected my sense of self, my relationships, my confidence, everything. The difference now isn't that I've turned into some hyper-organized productivity machine. I'm still me. I still lose my keys sometimes. I still leave half-drunk coffee cups around the house. But the biggest change is that I understand myself now. I'm not constantly at war with my own brain. Over the last few months, I've started sharing my experience more openly. Online, with friends, even with coworkers. A few people reached out privately after I posted about my journey on Facebook. One woman from my high school, who I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me to say, "I thought I was broken until I read your post." That hit me hard. We ended up talking for hours, and she eventually decided to see a psychiatrist too. It's strange how something that once filled me with shame has turned into something empowering. Tyler has been incredible through all of this. He told me recently that he feels like he's finally seeing the version of me that's always been there under the exhaustion and self-doubt. We still have our moments, especially when I hyper-focus on projects and forget about dinner or time. But now he approaches it with patience instead of frustration. He said, "I get it now. You're not ignoring me. You just get caught in the current." That kind of understanding has made our relationship stronger than it's ever been. We even started seeing a couples counselor. Not because things were bad, but because we wanted to keep growing together. She's helped us learn communication tools, like how to set boundaries when I'm overstimulated, or how to make shared routines that work for both of us. Tyler has his own reminders now, like setting a timer for me when I say, "I'll just finish this one thing." It's become kind of an inside joke between us. At work, I've continued to thrive. I recently led a project that went so well our department head mentioned it during a company-wide meeting. I almost cried when I got home that day. Not because of the recognition itself, but because for the first time, I felt like I earned it for me. Not despite me, Denise, my boss, actually asked if I'd be interested in mentoring a new hire who also has ADHD. I laughed and said, "Only if I can be honest about how messy my process really is," she said. That's exactly why she wanted me to do it. Outside of work, I've found new hobbies too. For the first time in my adult life, I can read books again. That might sound small, but for years, I couldn't get through a single chapter without zoning out. Now I have a growing stack on my nightstand, novels, psychology books, even poetry. Reading doesn't feel like a chore anymore. It feels like joy. I also started running. At first, it was just a way to burn off the excess energy the medication sometimes gives me. But now it's something I genuinely love. I listen to music, zone in, and it's one of the few times my mind feels completely quiet. I even ran my first 5K last month. Tyler was at the finish line, cheering me on like I'd just won a marathon. Therapy has continued to be a huge part of my growth too, Doctor. Lawson encouraged me to process the grief I still feel for the younger me, who struggled so much without answers. I wrote her a letter one night. Not to send, just to release it. It started with, "I'm sorry you had to work so hard just to be understood." By the time I finished, I was sobbing, but it was a good cry. A healing cry, in the months since. I've started to see that younger version of me with more compassion. She wasn't lazy or careless. She was fighting an invisible battle with no weapons. Now I have the tools she never did, and I carry her with me every day as a reminder of how far I've come. One of the most unexpected gifts of this journey is the community I've found. I joined a local ADHD support group in person. It meets every other Sunday at a community center near downtown. The first time I went, I was terrified. But sitting in that room, hearing people describe experiences that mirrored mine almost word for word, was life-changing. There's something powerful about realizing you're not alone in the way your brain works. There's a woman named Heather in the group who's in her 50s and was just diagnosed last year. She said something that stuck with me. We may be late bloomers, but we still bloom. That line has stayed with me, and I have bloomed. There's still a lot I'm learning, some days. I still crash, mentally and physically, some weeks. I forget my systems and fall into old habits. But instead of spiraling into self-loathing, I just start again. The difference is, I don't give up on myself anymore. Medication didn't fix me, it freed me. Therapy gave me understanding. Self-compassion gave me peace. Sometimes I think back to that first morning I took Adderall and cried because my mind finally felt still. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, looking out the window, and whispering, "So this is how it feels for everyone else." That memory still makes me emotional, but now for a different reason, because now, it's not about comparing myself to everyone else. It's about finally understanding and honoring myself. If anyone reading this is struggling, if you've spent your life wondering why things that seem easy for others feel impossible for you, please don't lose hope. There's no age limit on self-discovery. There's no expiration date on healing. I'm 35 now. It took me decades to understand my own mind, but I finally do, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually living it, fully, clearly, and unapologetically. And that's something worth crying tears of joy over. Stories number 27. Someone I don't know took my mom's seat at my wedding. You know when people tell you to expect at least one thing to go wrong at your wedding? That advice has never felt more real than it did on mine. The ceremony itself was perfect. The weather was soft and golden, like the world knew to behave for just a few hours. I'd been planning that day for over a year. With color palettes, playlists, seating charts, all of it. I wasn't a bridezilla, but I definitely cared about the details. And one of the most important things to me was making sure my mom had the perfect seat. My mom, Linda, raised me alone after my dad left when I was 7. She worked 2 jobs for years just to keep us afloat. Every birthday, every broken heart, every late-night meltdown, she was there. So when it came to my wedding, she was the centerpiece of my guest list. I made sure she'd be sitting front row, right beside my maid of honor's parents, close enough to see every tear and every smile. The morning of the wedding was chaotic, as weddings always are. Makeup artists, photographers, groomsmen losing ties, someone running late, all of it blurred together. I barely ate, running on nerves and caffeine, but I remember peeking out from the bridal suite as guests started arriving. The music was playing softly, people were taking their seats, and my heart was pounding. I saw my mom walk in, wearing a soft blue dress she'd picked months before. She looked radiant. She waved at me discreetly, and I waved back before my maid of honor, Jenna, pulled me away. Fast forward to the moment I walked down the aisle. Everything was surreal. The flowers, the murmurs, the sound of my dad's old favorite song playing in the background. I was holding my bouquet so tightly that I thought I might crush it. My fiancé, now husband, Matthew, was standing at the end of the aisle, smiling with that nervous excitement that made me fall in love with him. I looked over to the front row, ready to catch my mom's proud, teary smile, but she wasn't there at first. I thought maybe she'd stepped out. Maybe she went to the restroom, or maybe one of the ushers led her to the wrong spot. But then my eyes locked on the woman in her seat, a woman I didn't recognize. She wasn't on the guest list. I knew every single face in that first row, or I was supposed to. But this woman? I had no idea who she was. She was older, maybe mid-50s, dressed in a flowy beige dress, wearing a big hat that blocked part of her face. She sat there calmly, legs crossed, clutching her purse. My mom, I realized, was standing awkwardly a few rows back, next to the aisle, holding her clutch in both hands like she wasn't sure what to do. It felt like the entire world narrowed in that second. My mom wasn't sitting. She wasn't where she belonged. She was standing behind a stranger at my own wedding. But I couldn't stop the ceremony. I couldn't do anything but keep walking. My chest tightened as I forced a smile for the cameras. Afterward, during the reception, I finally found her. She tried to act like everything was fine. She hugged me, told me how beautiful I looked, and asked how I felt. But I could tell she was holding something back. Her voice had that tight politeness she used when she was upset but didn't want to make a scene. I asked her quietly what happened. She gave me a small shrug and said, "Someone was sitting there when I came in." I didn't want to make a fuss. I asked if the ushers saw, and she shook her head. "It's fine, sweetie." I didn't want to bother anyone. I still saw everything, but I could see the disappointment flicker behind her eyes. It broke my heart. This was her day, too. I tried to figure out who the woman was. I asked Matthew later if he recognized her. He said he thought she might have been one of his cousin's plus ones. That cousin being Derek, who had a reputation for dating a different woman every month. Sure enough, when we went through the guest list later, the name Guest of Derek Turner stood out. We had allowed plus ones, but the rule was clear. If your guest had a specific seat assigned, it had to match your name. Otherwise, they'd sit in the general section somehow. This woman had decided that the empty seat at the front, my mother's seat, was free game. I saw the photos later that night. In every single picture of me walking down the aisle, that woman was sitting where my mom should have been. In one, she's looking down at her phone. My mom is standing behind her, trying not to block anyone's view. I didn't even notice it at first when I looked through the pictures. But once I did, I couldn't unsee it. It felt like someone had taken a piece of that moment away from me. I called Derek a few days after the wedding. Trying to be calm, I asked him about his guest. He said, "Oh yeah, that's Melanie. She came with me last minute." I asked if he told her about assigned seating, and he said, I think so. Maybe she didn't realize? When I explained what happened, he laughed awkwardly and said, "Man, that sucks. I'll tell her, I guess." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Matthew wanted to let it go. He said it was one of those things that just happen at weddings. But to me it wasn't small. My mom doesn't make a scene. She's soft-spoken, kind, and always puts others first. And someone, a total stranger, took advantage of that. When we got the wedding video back a few weeks later, I braced myself. Sure enough, there she was, the woman. In the background of every shot where my mom should have been smiling up at me, my mom's moment was stolen because someone decided their comfort mattered more than courtesy. I ended up writing Melanie a short, polite message on Facebook after finding her through mutual friends. I didn't attack her, but I told her what had happened. That my mom had been left standing because she took her seat. She saw the message but never responded. My mom told me to let it go. She said, "It's just a seat. I got to see you marry the love of your life. That's what matters." And she's right, in a way. But when I look at the photos, I still feel a pang of anger. That seat represented everything my mom has been to me. My biggest supporter, my safe place, my constant. She deserved to be seen that day. Now months later, we laugh about it. My mom jokes that she's going to bring a sticky note with her name on it to every event from now on. But I still can't shake how symbolic it felt. How easily kind people like her get brushed aside by those who just take what they want. So no, it didn't ruin my wedding. But it did leave a mark. Not on the day itself, but on how I think about people. Some folks can look right past someone else's moment and not even realize the space they've taken up doesn't belong to them. And that more than anything still stings. Update, it's been about 6 months since our wedding, and that seat incident still comes up every once in a while. Not because I'm still bitter, okay, maybe a little, but because of how strange it ended up getting afterward. At first, I tried to take my mom's advice and let it go. Life moved on quickly after the wedding. Honeymoon, thank you notes, unpacking gifts, trying to get back to normal routines. But every time I looked at the framed wedding photos on our living room shelf, my eyes automatically drifted toward that one picture. The one with Melanie sitting in my mom's spot, staring down at her phone while my mom stood behind her. Smiling softly, it just didn't sit right. I kept telling myself it was over. But one night, I finally mentioned it to my dad's sister, my Aunt Sharon. She wasn't at the wedding, she lives across the country, but when I told her about it, she was furious on my mom's behalf. She said, "Oh no, honey, that's not something you just let go. That's disrespect. Plain and simple." That conversation stuck with me. It wasn't even about vengeance. It was about acknowledgement. My mom deserved somebody to say, "Hey, that wasn't okay." So I decided to find out what actually happened. I reached out to the wedding planner, Chelsea, and asked if she remembered anything odd about the seating. She checked her notes and said one of the ushers, Connor, mentioned a confused guest who sat wherever she wanted. Apparently, Connor had politely told Melanie that the first few rows were reserved for immediate family, but she'd insisted that Derek told her she could sit there because he was close to the couple. Which was not true. Derek and I barely talk outside of holidays. Chelsea told me she didn't want to make a scene before the ceremony, so they decided to leave it alone, assuming someone would handle it quietly. Of course, no one did. That conversation made my blood boil. My mom's seat was taken not by mistake, but by entitlement. I debated messaging Melanie again, but what was the point? She'd already ignored my first message. Still, part of me wanted her to know that her small moment of selfishness had actually affected someone deeply. Then, 2 weeks later, I got a message. Not from Melanie, but from Derek. It said, "Hey, I heard through Mom you're still upset about that seat thing. I think you're overreacting a bit. It's just a wedding seat. Mel didn't know. Don't make this into drama." That message made my jaw drop. I showed it to Matthew, who groaned and said, "Please don't engage with him." But I couldn't help myself. I wrote back something short and calm. It wasn't about the seat. It was about respect. My mom ended up standing through part of the ceremony because of your guest. If you don't see why that's wrong. That says a lot, he didn't reply. But a few hours later, I got a Facebook message from, you guessed it, Melanie. She wrote, "Hey, I just wanted to apologize. I didn't realize that was your mom's seat. No one told me. I thought it was open. I'm sorry if I upset anyone." I sat there staring at it for a long time. It wasn't exactly heartfelt. It read like a forced apology after Derek probably told her I was making a big deal. But still, it was something. I told her I appreciated the apology, but that I hoped next time she'd consider asking before taking a seat in the front row of a wedding. She heart-reacted the message, and that was that. But here's the wild part. A few months later, Derek and Melanie broke up. Apparently, she'd gotten into a fight with his sister at another family event. This time because she sat in a spot reserved for grandparents. You can't make this up. When my cousin Lauren told me, I actually laughed out loud. I guess old habits die hard. As for my mom, she's been the epitome of grace through all of it. For her birthday, I decided to do something special. I worked with the photographer to edit one of the ceremony photos. They managed to digitally move Melanie out of the shot and place my mom where she was supposed to be, sitting front row, looking up at me. When I gave my mom the framed photo, she teared up and said, "You didn't have to do that." But I told her I did, because she deserved that moment, even if it was retroactively. Now that time has passed, I can see the humor in it. My mom jokes that she should start carrying a folding chair in her purse, just in case someone steals her seat again. She even made it her phone background of the edited photo, and says, "See? Technology fixed rude people." But beyond the jokes, it really made me think about how small acts of thoughtlessness can leave such lasting marks. Melanie probably didn't even remember what she did after that day. But for my mom, for me, it became this weird little symbol of how people's selfish choices can ripple through someone else's memories. I also realized how fiercely protective I am of my mom. She never asks for anything. She's one of those people who quietly endures everything so no one else feels uncomfortable. Watching her be brushed aside like that brought up something in me. Like, no, not her. Not the woman who sacrificed everything so I could have this moment. So no, I'm not angry anymore, just more aware. Aware of how people show who they are in small ways, by what they take, what they give, and who they respect when no one's looking. And as strange as it sounds, that little seat-stealing fiasco reminded me to be the kind of person who sees others. The quiet ones, the polite ones, the ones who never make a fuss even when they should. Because sometimes, the smallest seat in the room holds the biggest heart. Final update. It's been a little over a year since the wedding now. And I didn't expect to ever be writing another update about something as seemingly small as a stolen seat. But the whole thing came full circle in the strangest, most unexpected way. Life's calmed down a lot since then. Matthew and I bought a house. My mom moved just 15 minutes away so she can come over for dinner every Sunday. And we're finally at that stage where the wedding feels like a sweet, distant memory rather than a source of lingering frustration. But every once in a while when we'd flip through the album, my mom and I would exchange this little knowing smile. The seat story had become family lore at that point, but the real closure didn't come until this spring. It started when I got a random message on Instagram. It was from Melanie. I hadn't heard from her since her half-hearted Facebook apology months ago. Honestly, I didn't even know she followed me. Her message began, "Hi, I know this is weird and out of the blue, but I owe you a real apology. I've thought about your mom's seat more times than I can count." I read that line about 10 times. She went on to explain that after her breakup with Derek, she'd done a lot of reflecting on her behavior. Not just at the wedding, but in general. She said she'd realized she had a tendency to take up space without realizing the cost to others. Apparently, a few things had happened in her own life that gave her perspective. She went to her cousin's wedding, and someone took her grandmother's reserved seat. Her grandmother had to stand until they noticed. The second it happened, she wrote, "I thought of your mom." She ended her message with, "I know a message can't fix it, but please tell your mom I'm truly sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect her or you. I was selfish and unaware, and I've carried guilt over it." She seems like the kind of woman who didn't deserve that kind of moment ruined. It was short, but it was sincere. I showed my mom the message that night. She read it, smiled softly, and said, "That's nice. It takes a lot for someone to say they were wrong. I hope she's doing okay. That's just who my mom is, endlessly forgiving." But then my mom did something that surprised me. She asked if she could write Melanie back. She dictated what she wanted to say while I typed it. "Dear Melanie, thank you for reaching out. I accepted your apology the first time, but it means even more now that you've reflected on it. We all make mistakes. I'm just glad you learned something from it. I wish you peace and kindness in everything you do. Linda." She wanted to send it from my account since she doesn't use social media. And I did. Melanie replied with a simple, "Thank you, that means a lot." And that was the end of it. It was strange, but I felt this wave of relief wash over me. Not because I was still angry, but because it finally felt closed. The awkwardness, the resentment, the little knot of unfairness in my chest. Gone since then. The story has turned into something of a funny but profound anecdote in our family. My mom even told it at my cousin Lauren's bridal shower a few weeks ago when someone mentioned assigned seating. She said, "Always guard the front row. Ladies," and everyone laughed. Then she added, "But also remember, most people who take what isn't theirs aren't mean. They're just unaware. Teach them. Don't hate them." Leave it to my mom to turn even that into a life lesson. But the story didn't completely fade from my life. When our wedding photographer reached out months ago to offer an anniversary shoot, I decided to include my mom this time. We went back to the same garden where we had the ceremony, just the three of us, me, Matthew, and her. The photographer took a few candid shots of us laughing, my mom holding my bouquet while teasing Matthew for blinking too much during photos. When we got the pictures back, there was one image that stood out. My mom sitting on a bench, sunlight catching her hair, looking at me with the same expression she probably had that day. Pure pride and love. I printed it and framed it next to our wedding photo. The two sit side by side on our mantel. The photo where someone once took her place, and the one where she finally got it back. And here's the wildest part. Derek and I recently reconnected. He's actually engaged now to someone genuinely wonderful, and when he called to tell me, he joked, "Don't worry, we'll make sure your mom's seat is reserved this time." We laughed about it, but then he got quiet and said, "You know, I never realized how rude that whole situation was until later. I'm sorry, too. It's funny how life works. The things that once seemed like these awful, cringeworthy moments can, over time, become stories of growth for everyone involved. Now, when people ask me about wedding mishaps, I tell them the story, but I don't tell it with bitterness anymore. I tell it like a fable, about awareness, about boundaries, about the quiet grace of people like my mom, the ones who don't need to demand respect to deserve it. And honestly, that's what sticks with me the most. Because the truth is, that seat was never really about a chair or a spot at a ceremony. It was about recognition, about honoring the people who stand by us when no one else does. My mom could have sat in the very back of that garden, and she still would have been the most important person there. But now, every time I look at that new photo of her, I think she finally got her seat, not just at my wedding, but in the place she's always belonged, front and center in my heart. Exactly where she deserves to be.